Good morning, Michigan fans and fans across the world. Welcome to Ann Arbor, the big house. We are here live for Michigan's home opener, the start of the football season, the best time of year, as I like to say. College football is back. We are back in Ann Arbor. May's out. Crowd, you can feel the energy in this building as we're preparing for the home opener live for WCBN Sports between the Michigan Wolverines and the East Carolina Pirates. I'm Peter Nasr, along with Kelin Flynn here to start with a little pregame show before we get kickoff in just over 20 minutes away from a beautiful, beautiful day in Ann Arbor. Welcome, Kelin. How are you feeling? What's the energy like as we get ready to kick off another great football season? Team 144 set to take the field in a few minutes.
Peter, I am so excited to be back. I could not be more happy that I am here right now. Nowhere else in the world I'd rather be than up here in the press box at Michigan Stadium. It's just so great to see all the fans back in the stadium, walking up to the stadium today, seeing everyone tailgating, all the students filing in now. So excited for all these freshmen that are getting to experience their first game here. It's a ton of fun to be here on this campus as a student at this time of year, and as a Michigan football fan as well. It's an exciting time because of how special this team is.
Yeah, you said it. Like, you could feel the energy leading up to this game, coming into the stadium throughout the whole summer. Like, this team has high expectations. We all know that. It starts today against East Carolina, but the goals are much further. But it starts here, and the energy, we're ready to get rolling. I'm ready to get rolling. We got an exciting game coming up for you. But Kelin, like, thinking about this game, like, Michigan has their non-conference schedule is notably not strong. They're going to get a lot of hate for it throughout the season. But, like, what do you want to see today against a Pirates team losing a lot of starters, losing a lot of their top players from last year? What are you looking for from this Michigan team, game one of this regular season?
Yeah, and for Michigan, obviously the big storyline coming into this game is no Jim Harbaugh, no Sharon Moore. Sharon Moore suspended for just one game, and Harbaugh for the first all three non-conference games to start off the season for Michigan. And when you look at the schedule, it's not terribly concerning because of the teams that Michigan has scheduled. It's East Carolina, it's UNLV, and Bowling Green, teams that aren't jumping off the page to you in terms of how threatening we perceive them to be. But as we all know as Michigan fans, any given Saturday, anything can happen, and you have to come out there and give it your best shot. For Michigan, I think what you're looking for is to answer some questions that you have at a couple of different position groups. We talked about ECU and how they lost a lot of their production. Their starting quarterback from last season is gone, their top running back from last season is gone, and their top two wide receivers from last season are also gone. They had 2 1,000-yard receivers that are no longer with the program. For Michigan, you have great depth at safety, great experience at safety, great depth and experience on the offensive line. Those aren't areas you're really concerned about. Quarterback this season, no question marks whatsoever. J.J. McCarthy is the guy going into his second season as a starter, third year in the program. No question marks there. The running back room, rock solid, the best in the country. You have 2 absolute superstars in Blake Corum and Donovan Edwards, who are going to be likely day 2 draft picks in the NFL draft come the spring. Where some question marks lie, what about receiver? You lose Ronnie Bell. You bring back Cornelius Johnson and Rowan Wilson, but Bell was that top receiver in that room for a while. Can somebody step up and fill his role as the third guy? You look at corner, Will Johnson, obviously a stud, but Michigan lost DJ Turner, Gamon Green, and Vincent Gray last season. The depth in that cornerback room is definitely a consideration and a question mark coming into the season. That's, in my opinion, the top question mark for this Michigan team is cornerback depth behind Will Johnson. And then you look at the defensive front, you lose Mike Morris, you lose Yabi Oki to the transfer portal. Who's going to step up and be that guy as a pass rusher? Jalen Harrell is a guy that a lot of people really like and are really excited about. And Josiah Stewart is somebody that came in from Coastal Carolina that was really productive there. So Michigan has the pieces. It's just kind of figuring out how it all fits together and how that puzzle fits together at this point.
Yeah, exactly. You bring up some really good points, and I think that's what these first couple games are meant for. You really want to see what you have at depth at cornerback. You want to see which wide receivers are going to step up. We have Payne O'Leary, who's a leading receiver in the spring game. He's out today, so that hurts. You want to be able to get the guys reps early in these games, especially when you have considerable upper hand, you would think, going into the game. This is the time where you'll see your depth on the defensive line. Someone I'm really excited to see this year is Brady McGregor get some more active role. The junior out of from Port Huron, Michigan, made some big plays against Ohio State last year, against Purdue in the Big Ten championship game. We saw him make some plays when he needed to. I'm excited to see him get some more reps full time and how that will affect the Michigan defensive line. But you're right, Michigan's lost some key guys, but they're hungry, they're fired up, and this is where we start to see how those will fill up as we get going through the season. Just under 16 plus minutes to go till opening kickoff. Kelin, any other thoughts you have thinking about? Obviously, we're back here in the big house. Scoreboard's nice and large now, Mays out. Just the atmosphere here just feels different, but the expectation, the goal is the same. It's beat Ohio State, beat Michigan State, win the Big Ten championship, and win the national championship. Those have to be the aspirations for the Wolverines this year. And it starts on this beautiful Saturday afternoon in September in Ann Arbor.
You're absolutely right, Peter. You hit the nail right on the head. Those are the goals. You laid them out clear as day. It's beat Ohio State, win the Big Ten championship, and win the national championship. The goal is no longer just to get to the playoff. Michigan's done that 2 years in a row, and they haven't had a lot of success there. This team has a lot of veterans that have been to the playoff twice. They know what it takes to get there. At this point, it's about getting over that mountaintop.
Exactly. The crowd getting loud as we are beginning the pregame festivities here. Yeah, you mentioned it. We have the players on this team, the leaders on this team. Your J.J. McCarthy's, your Blake Corum's on the offense. They have the playoff experience, and now it's using that experience to drive this team forward through the regular season with the goals in mind to taking care of business through the regular season. And then once you get to the playoffs, having more success in the playoffs. J.J. McCarthy, his first full summer as a starter. So we'll see how I think he's going to have a really good year with no quarterback competition. He is the guy.
Absolutely. And we get a first look at the new pregame hype video here at the Big House. And you mentioned the new scoreboards.
They look beautiful.
Beautiful. It says Michigan Stadium in big, bold maize lettering above the top of the scoreboard. They expanded it as the students are on their feet, the Michigan band trotting onto the field.
And this is the stuff you missed over the summer, the band coming on the field, hearing the victors play in front of a sold-out crowd that we're expecting here on hand from the Michigan Stadium. You just get those jitters, you get those exciting feelings as we're inching closer towards kickoff.
And Peter, another thing to note, some changes that were done here over the summer, a lot of construction going on around East Stadium Street, Main Street and Stadium. There's a new light system as well that Michigan has installed here that allows for Michigan to play around with some more light shows that gives them different colors they can shine onto the field, which will be really exciting for some of the night games.
Yeah, that'll be and later in the year once it gets darker during the year. We won't see them today most likely, but
no.
You're right. That just adds an extra, like this stadium is such a historic venue, but to be able to add these amenities just makes the experience better, and I expect the crowd to feel that energy and use it and show up today and bring out the noise and make it difficult for ECU. This is by far the largest stadium that East Carolina has played in their program's history. But think about ECU, like they did lose a lot from last year, but last year was a pretty successful season for them. They were 8-5. They beat Coastal Carolina pretty handedly in the Birmingham Bowl, so they got a bowl win under Mike Houston in his 5th year. He's got success. He won the FCS championship with James Madison in 2016. So he's going to get his guys ready to go. He's going to get them to understand that there's no challenge too big, and they're going to come out fighting. I expect them to put up a good fight today, and I think that's good for Michigan to have to get to face a good challenge here early in the year. Like, ECU's not going to let down. They're going to make Michigan work for it, and I think that's good for Michigan. As we got the first month of the year, maybe a little less competitive, as the critics might say, but every game's an important game, and as the Block M forms on the field by the Michigan band and the victors plays, it's that beautiful time of year.
Pom-poms out, the student section is filled in nicely. It is good to be back, Peter. A maze out here at the big house. Some purple lingering, lining the top part underneath the south scoreboard.
ECU's well represented today. Their fans, they filled up the road section.
They did. I saw a couple of Pirate fans out at dinner last night. Went up and said hi and just kind of asked how their experience in Ann Arbor was, how they were enjoying the town, and they seem to have pretty good thoughts on our great town. So that's good to hear as always. Very, very nice and gracious.
As we give them a nice welcome ourselves here from the crowd, letting them hear it.
Just about 11 minutes to go till kickoff. You're tuned into WCBN Sports, live coverage of Michigan football. It is so great to be back with you from the big house. Again, my name is Kelin Flynn. Alongside me right now for the pregame, Peter Nasr will be bringing in Neal Sinha to call the first half with me, and then Peter and Matthew Levy will be on the second half for us. An awesome crew for today's game. If you're tuning in because you don't have Peacock, well, thank you for listening. This is the official student radio of Michigan athletics. We travel the country. We cover every single football game, home, away, bowl. We do our best to cover as many men's and women's basketball games as possible, all of our home field hockey, volleyball, lacrosse, men's and women's soccer, everything. We try to do as much as we can. And your listening helps support student radio, so thank you for that.
Yeah, we appreciate every listener we have on this channel.
So, Peter, I've got a question for you. Is there any chance that Michigan gets a scare today? Because we've talked about it a little bit. Although ECU is replacing a lot of production, especially on the offensive side of the ball, they brought in a ton of transfers, a couple of North Carolina guys that came over. They've got a lot of transfers, so some new faces, but not necessarily devoid of talent. Definitely not devoid of talent. Transfer wide receiver from Colorado. They have players. Michigan, no head coach Jim Harbaugh, offensive coordinator and O-line coach Sharon Moore not roaming the sidelines today. Jesse Minter, the head coach. Something you look for early in the season is consistency and kind of getting into that routine, getting into that rhythm. Michigan doesn't have that. And so is there any chance that they get a scare as we approach the national anthem here?
Now, the thing I'm thinking about is the fact that Mike Houston, he's not released a depth chart. You said a lot of new transfers, a lot of new pieces. So Michigan doesn't really know what they're going to get out of ECU today. Mason Garcia is presumed to be the starter. They've not announced it, though, but we're expecting Mason Garcia to start for the Wolverines as we got the national anthem going, so we will listen in on that. Always great hearing the Michigan band play the fight song, play the Star Spangled Banner, excuse me, as we have a flyover coming in a little late here. But it's always exciting. Football is back. When you hear the national anthem, you get
hear
to fly over.
Those fighter jets coming overhead.
They're a little late, but they're here. And the crowd appreciates them. What a scene here in Ann Arbor. The best place in the world to watch a football game. And I'll finish my point real quickly before Neal comes in. I think the uncertainty of who ECU is going to be this year maybe could pose a little bit of chance. I do think Michigan will take care of business today. I do think they will, as the pregame video plays.
Man, I'm getting goosebumps
I always get chills,
right now.
always get chills watching it.
I can't even hear it, but just seeing James Earl Jones put on that headset, I know. Oh boy,
Yeah,
it is good to be back.
Some new clips from the past, but the same message that this is football's back. That's all I gotta say.
Well, Peter, thank you so much for joining me on the pregame, as I'm going to welcome in my partner for the first half, one of WCBN's finest, Neal Sinha. Neal, welcome. It is week 1. It is so great to be back here. The Go Blue sign is out. M Club supports you. It is out. The players are in the tunnel. We are ready to go from the big house, just about 6 minutes away from kickoff.
It's
Neal,
amazing to be back.
It is so good to be back.
Yeah, you just said it, 6 minutes to go before kickoff here. All of the expectations for these Michigan Wolverines on this 2023 football season. I mean, everybody is going to be watching this team in Ann Arbor, Michigan. Everyone around the country will be watching this team. Michigan coming into this season, of course, ranked number 2 in the country, both in the AP and coaches polls. In addition to the fact that a lot of college football analysts, for the first time in a very long time, are actually picking this team to win the national championship. Well, there's very good reason for it. Wolverines returning a bunch of starters. 3 of their 5 starters on the offensive line are back. J.J. McCarthy, of course, is back. We'll talk about all the reports with him. We'll get to see all of the news with him and everything that goes on today. But so excited to be back. Just cannot wait to get football season started, Kelin. Doesn't get any better.
It doesn't get any better than this, Neal. We're ready to go. 5 minutes away, Neal. This crowd just keeps getting louder and louder. Let's talk ball here real quick. Michigan hosting East Carolina, their first meeting in history, as the players head out of the locker room and into the tunnel. What are you looking for in today's game, whether that be a position group, whether that be something in the coaching staff? What are you looking for most in this game to take away? Because the expectation is that Michigan's going to take care of business. What are you looking for to take away from this game and bring out across the season?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot to look forward to in this game and a lot of different positions and different things to look at this game and focus at because, you know, of course, one is the coaching. And I don't mean to beat a dead horse here, but of course, Jim Harbaugh is not the coach today, nor will he be for the next 2 weeks. Today, Jesse Minter gets the nod. And so you do have to wonder a little bit with regards to the play calling, what happens. Sharon Moore is not coaching this game either. And so I am kind of curious to see what happens with that. In terms of the actual players on the Michigan side, I talked about this on Instagram and on Twitter for WCBN, but I think the position to watch today and for a lot of this beginning part of the season are the wide receivers for Michigan. The Wolverines lost their leading wide receiver last year in Ronnie Bell, of course, off playing for the San Francisco 49ers. But now the question is, J.J. McCarthy appears ready to take that next step. There's been so many scouts that have said that McCarthy's going to have a breakout season, that he will be a first-round draft pick next year. Well, he needs receivers to catch the ball, and he needs receivers to get open. And that's going to be the question mark today because the wide receiver number 1 as of right now for the Wolverines is Cornelius Johnson, not expected to play today, but we'll see. Roman Wilson, of course, is back. But who's the third? And that's where I think someone like Darius Clemens needs to come in and have a great game. The true sophomore out of Portland, Oregon, was just a blazing recruit coming out of high school. Ran like a 4.35 40-yard dash, is 6'3", 212 pounds. I mean, just unbelievable size and speed. So for Michigan, I think it's got to be the wide receivers. I'm interested, too, on the back end for the Wolverines in terms of their cornerbacks. Of course, Will Johnson is not a question mark at all for this team, but Josh Wallace and those other guys that could be cornerback too, Michigan's going to be keeping their eyes very close on. On the Eastern Carolina side of things, of course, the quarterback position, they're replacing their starter from last year with Mason Garcia. On the defensive side of things, I think it's Chad Stevens. I think that's the player to watch out for the Carolina Pirates. Chad Stevens had a great season just last season, shows unbelievable get off of the line, and expect him to possibly disrupt a few plays for Michigan today.
And obviously for Michigan, the strength of this team remains the same. It's the big boys up front, in the trenches. Michigan these last couple seasons has really established themselves as one of the dominant teams in the country off of a dominant offensive line and a defensive line as well that has been very, very solid. Mozzie Smith last year led that front. Chris Jenkins and Mason Graham are going to be the two leading the defensive side this year. And Michigan, the offensive line, brought back the two bookend guards in Trevor Keegan and Zach Zinter. Those were big gets for this team. Bring in Ladarius Henderson, a transfer from Arizona State. He's supposed to be in at left tackle today. And at right tackle, it's going to be Trente Jones or Carson Barnhart. It looks like Barnhart will be the one that gets the start, but that's something to keep an eye on throughout the season. But Michigan has tremendous depth there as well. Miles Hinton, a former 5-star prospect, was brought in as a transfer. Michigan has Gio Al-Hadi back there as well. There's so much depth on this offensive line. It's going to be a strength of this team yet again.
It definitely will. I mean, just as you said, I think one, little tidbit that you mentioned briefly there was Drake Nugent. Michigan brought in a great transfer class just last season. You mentioned a few of them, but Ernest Hausman as well, Josiah Stewart coming out of Coastal Carolina. These are players that are expected to come in and make immediate impacts for the Wolverines. They're plug-and-play type of guys, even at the Big Ten Power 5 level. And so Michigan's expecting some help out of them, but we'll see what happens. Just as you said, the offensive line is certainly a big focal point for this team. We'll see how much they get it going on the ground early here, Kelin.
And we're just moments away from kickoff, Neal, here at the Big House.
Yeah, just cannot wait for this season. Of course, we can talk about all the expectations. One thing that this Michigan team has that no other team at the top of college football has from last year is a returning quarterback. That is something to watch out for today. There's been so much news this offseason that J.J. McCarthy is taking that next step. A lot of scouts, a lot of national media members have even said in watching Michigan practices that J.J. McCarthy has changed his throwing mechanics, that he looks ready to go for a 3,500 passing yard type of season and score quite a few touchdowns, probably over 30. We'll see if that's the case. Today we're going to get the first little taste of it. And, again, the key for Michigan, the only team from the college football playoff from last season that is returning their quarterback. Georgia's breaking in a new quarterback in Carson Beck. Of course, the Buckeyes are breaking in Kyle McCord. And then Alabama breaking in Jalen Milroe. So very, very interesting stuff going on here. Michigan with quite a experience that they'll hope to rely on today and for the rest of this season.
And Neal, we are ready to go. Both squads out on the field. We are back at the Big House. Michigan football is back.
Just getting goosebumps, Kelin.
Oh, boy.
Just hearing those words.
Michigan's going to kick it away. It's Tommy Doman, the local product from St. Mary's High School. 3, 2, 1, and away we go. Doman boots it end over end kick, and that's going to bounce out of the back of the end zone for a touchback. ECU will take over on offense to get this one started as we get our first look at the new scoreboard as well. Got a out-of-town scoreboard along the right side and team stats along the left.
Yeah, very nice. They just finished all the speakers, everything with these new scoreboards just in time. But, of course, for Michigan, they'll be starting out on defense here. Chris Jenkins, Braden McGregor anchoring that defensive line. We'll see what the Wolverines can do on this first possession.
And it's Mason Garcia in the shotgun for the Pirates. Rajay Harris the lone tailback. He gets the handoff, and he'll be stuffed at the line of scrimmage. Gain of 1 for Harris.
And I love this defensive line for Michigan this year. Chris Jenkins was number 6 on Bruce Feldman's rankings for freaks in college football. This guy's athleticism is unreal. He expects to also be a first or second round NFL draft pick.
He's somebody that's gotten a lot of buzz from camp. Garcia barking out the orders. 2 receivers to his right, 2 to his left. The tight end, Calhoun, goes in motion. Drop back to throw, gonna look right, find a man right, and it's Hatfield who is planted just inside the 30. Josiah Hatfield.
Yeah, Michael Barrett was right there the whole time. Michigan's fine with that. You know, Eastern Carolina can take 5 yards on second down. Here's a 3rd and medium situation early for the Wolverines.
3rd and 4 for Michigan. Ball on the 31. Garcia in the shotgun. Michigan showing pressure. Garcia looks over to his sideline, adjusts the call. Harris to his right. 3 receivers to the left, 1 to the right. Claps his hands, receives the snap. Looking left, throws left, and that's incomplete. Broken up by Keon Sabb, the safety. And his intended target was the big tight end, Shane Calhoun from Jacksonville, Florida. Michigan forces a 3-and-out on their first defensive possession of the season.
And I tell you what, it's a good play by Keon Sabb. I mean, he had Makari Page coming over the top as well, but Mason Garcia's got to put a little bit more air under that ball. Calhoun had a step on Sabb for a second there, just didn't get him enough.
Luke Larson, the punter, boots it away. Jake Thaw lets that one bounce, and that's going to go inside the 5, down to about the 3-yard line. A fantastic punt. So ECU flips the field in a big way, pins Michigan inside their own 5. Ball marked at the 2-yard line, and so Michigan's offense backed up deep in their own territory to start off here.
And that's a little bit of a tough situation for a kick returner because you got to make a split-second decision of do you dive on the ball, because Jake Thaw knew it was going to keep rolling, but he had to make the decision of either diving on the ball, and if you do that, you got to make sure that you get the ball, or just let it go. That time he let it go, but unfortunately from the Wolverines, they're starting at their own 2.
And now we get the first look at the Michigan offense. McCarthy and Corum in the backfield together. 2 receivers. It's Cornelius Johnson and Roman Wilson. And they're going to hand it off to Corum. Corum, nothing doing there. I think he just got out of the end zone. That's going to be marked inside the 1. Great interior pressure from that front from ECU.
You know, and so you mentioned it earlier with the offensive line. For Michigan today, it's going to be very interesting. Breaking in a new center and Drake Nugent, they've done this the last 2 years, but the communication is going to be key with J.J. McCarthy. We'll see how their chemistry is in general with the offensive line as a whole.
It was a tandem of Pirates that made the stop there. Deonta Johnson and Elijah Morris are the 2 in the middle now. McCarthy claps his hands, hands it off. Corum just barely able to get out of the end zone again. Picked up 1 maybe, down to the 2. And the Michigan offense sputtering to start deep in their own territory.
And once again, good pressure right away. Good penetration by that Eastern Carolina defensive front. Blake Corum really didn't have much breathing room there. And now Donovan Edwards coming in. McCarthy's going to have to go for the sticks here.
A.J. Barner, the new tight end, in there as well. Transfer from Indiana. McCarthy going to make an adjustment. Claps his hands, receives the snap, hands it off to Edwards, and Edwards just barely gets out of the end zone. Makes his way to the 2, but the Pirates, stout early on defense, force a 3-and-out. Michigan can't get anything going. They're going to be forced to punt it away from deep in their own territory, and Tommy Doman is going to be the one to get rid of it. The junior took the kickoff for Michigan, his first punt as a starter, replacing Brad Robbins from last year, who's now the starter for the Cincinnati Bengals, is backed up deep. Doman's punt is going to be fielded inside midfield at about the 46-yard line.
And the fans aren't going to like the play call there. That's 3 straight runs for the Wolverines backed up at their own goal line. But when you're at your own 2, and then after that first down play, they're at their own 1, honestly, their own 6-inch line pretty much. Sometimes you have to be conservative as a coach, and I think that's what Michigan did right there. If they're going to try to just punt it away, now you play defense, and then eventually you try working the ball down the field here. Obviously not preferred for the start for the Wolverines, but, this team will be just fine. Again, I am very excited to see, though, this passing game. We didn't get to see any of it right there, but we'll see what happens as we go down the rest of this game here.
So the Michigan defense holds strong, and the Pirates pin Michigan deep off of a fantastic punt from Luke Larson. Still first quarter of play. 11-14 left in the first quarter. Again, my name is Kelin, Flynn, alongside me, Neal Sinha. You're tuned in to Michigan football on WCBN Sports, the official student radio of Michigan athletics.
Yeah, very exciting day, of course, in all of sports, but college football specifically. Very big things happening in the world of college football. Deion Sanders having his first game as an FBS coach for the Colorado Buffaloes. They're playing TCU today, a little rematch of their season opener just last season. We'll see what Deion can do with that squad. Bunch of other, we talked about it earlier, but a bunch of other big programs breaking in new quarterbacks. Carson Beck for Georgia getting his first start. Jalen Milroe will get the start for Alabama, and Kyle McCord for the Ohio State Buckeyes. So a lot of new faces in college football, a lot of new expectations. But for the Wolverines, we mentioned it earlier, a lot of old faces. They're bringing back J.J. McCarthy and a bunch of other starters.
And really interesting to see kind of how this offense shakes out today with no Jim Harbaugh, no Sharon Moore. Mike Hart, Ron Bellamy, Kirk Campbell, 3 of the position coaches. Campbell, the quarterback's coach, Hart, the running back coach, and Bellamy, the receivers coach.
And Kelin, how about the decision by Harbaugh to, instead of going the usual route of picking one interim head coach, he decides to pick 4 different ones. In the UNLV game, of course, Michigan will be fielding 2 different head coaches, 1 for each half. I mean, what an interesting decision by Jim Harbaugh. Of course, a guy who's not known to follow the normal way of things, choosing once again to do things a little differently. What did you think about that? Because I was quite surprised.
It's interesting. I think it's him kind of making a statement in his own way. He's been named his dad the associate head coach for these couple games, so he's definitely frustrated he's not out there with his guys, and McCarthy made that clear as well when he walked in. Garcia in the shotgun, man in motion. It's a handoff to Harris, and Harris has nowhere to go. That's a loss of 2. A couple of Wolverines came in there to make the stop. Derek Moore, one of them.
Yeah, and your defensive line is doing a good job when they're pushing every single offensive lineman for Eastern Carolina back a yard or 2. I mean, Rajay Harris didn't even have a chance there. Now a little empty set for the Pirates here, trying to open things up a little bit.
Junior Colson was the one that busted that play open. Trips to the left, 1 receiver to the right. Garcia going to take off and use his legs, and he's got nowhere to go. Wrapped up by Josiah Stewart and Mike Barrett. Stewart, the transfer from Coastal Carolina, makes his first play in the maize and blue. 3rd and 9 now for the Pirates, as there's an injured player on the field for ECU.
Yeah, an interesting play call by Eastern Carolina right there on that second down. They go empty set and just ends up being a quarterback draw up the gut. One tough part about preparation for this game for the Michigan side is that there's just not a lot of film on Mason Garcia. Only 12 passing attempts just last season. That right there was his 4th rushing attempt. Just not a lot of film on Mason Garcia. And so, you got to wonder a little bit how Michigan's just trying to feel things out early on to get an understanding of him. But, great opportunity, of course, for Garcia and this Eastern Carolina squad. Mike Houston, of course, a very seasoned coach, an FCS champion in 2016. Listen, this team is going to give Michigan's best shot, and they're going to keep going after it this whole game.
East Carolina is I believe they're 7-11 against Power 5. Yeah, 7-11 against Power 5 conference opponents in the last 10 years. So they've knocked off 2 ranked Power 5 teams in that time span. And number 5, Chase Soule, the Colorado transfer receiver, is walking off the field on his own power. That's good to see. He was the injured Pirate.
Yeah, always good to see an injured player, of course, get up. Now back to football. 3rd and 9 here. Ball on the 46 for Eastern Carolina. We'll see what Michigan does early. You know, last year, Jesse Minter threw a lot of looks on 3rd and longs. He's not as much of an aggressive play caller in terms of, you know, pressing the box and bringing the house in terms of blitzes on 3rd and longs. Usually this Wolverines defense likes to sit back in that nickelback coverage. We'll see what they do today. Of course, a lot of things that, you know, you got to keep in mind with play calling is that it depends on the personnel. Michigan replaced a decent amount along the defensive line, but their linebackers are all mainly back. You got Junior Colson, Michael Barrett coming back, but Ernest Hausman, of course, inserted into the starting lineup for the Wolverines on defense.
That was a big get. I think coming in, going to be a true sophomore now. Michigan's going to get a couple years out of him. He's a really talented player.
Yeah, I mean, listen, he was a starter for Nebraska just last season as a true freshman. Michigan saw. What'd you say?
I believe he was their leading tackler.
Yeah, he was. And Michigan, I was just going to say, saw a lot of Ernest Hausman in that game against Nebraska. I was actually on the call for that, and we were calling Ernest Hausman's name, a lot throughout that game. He was making a lot of great plays for the Cornhuskers. So Michigan very happy to get him, but we'll see how it affects the personnel because Hausman is much more of a man-to-man linebacker. He's much more of a possible blitzer rather than a drop-back cover linebacker. And so we'll see how that affects Jesse Minter's play calling here on 3rd and long.
3rd and long is right. 3rd and 9 now for East Carolina. Garcia making sure everyone is in the right spots. 2 receivers to the left, 1 to the right. 2 running backs in the backfield. Garcia claps his hands, drops back to pass. Pressure coming, and that's going to be picked off. Mike Sinha still. Sinha still inside the 45, and Michigan forces their first turnover of the season. How about it? None other than the captain, number 0.
Got to feel good for Mikey Sinha still right there. Of course, Mikey, as Jim Harbaugh calls him. But listen, Michigan, they didn't bring a ton of pressure. It was just a 4-man front. Kenneth Grant, by the way, getting quite a few extended snaps early on here and brings the pressure up the middle. We wanted to see what Mason Garcia would do under pressure. Steps off his back foot, makes the wrong decision, and just floats it into the secondary. Mike Sinha still in the right spot at the right time.
And he was looking for his big target, 6'2" Jalen Johnson, just underthrew it. Sinha still came in and grabbed it as Michigan lines everyone up vertically, and McCarthy claps his hands, and everyone splits out wide. 3 receivers on the bottom of the formation. It's a screen to Edwards. Edwards makes a man miss and picks up a couple. Michigan now getting to operate at midfield, no longer backed up inside their own 3, and now they can open up the playbook a little bit more.
You know, Michigan continuously subbing here. I was going to say, I'm curious to see how much no huddle we see today. Usually like to go to no huddle offense kind of when they're in the middle of the field right here.
And interesting, we saw Edwards and Corum there. I'm expecting to see a lot more of that this season. Corum, the running back. They bring Loveland across the formation. 3 receivers on the right, 1 to the left. They bring Loveland back across to the left in motion. McCarthy looking, got a man. It's Roman Wilson, and he dropped it. Wilson just didn't quite look it in, and that pass is incomplete. He was open and tried to turn up field just before he hauled it in.
Of course, Roman Wilson now sporting that new number 1 number for the Wolverines. Of course, shades of Braylon Edwards. Might not be anywhere near the same height as Braylon Edwards, but you know what? Roman Wilson tried to make his mark as the wide receiver 1.
McCarthy in the shotgun, got Edwards to his left. Brings a man in motion. That's Cornelius Johnson dropping back to pass, looking right, throws right. Has Wilson that time, and Wilson hauls it in for the first down inside the Pirate 40. J.J. McCarthy throws a laser of an out route, and Michigan picks up the first down.
And not a great example right there, but I love the way JJ, at least a little early on in this drive, is going through his progressions and finding the open receivers. You know, oftentimes with younger quarterbacks, it's very easy to just stare one guy down. That time he was able to because Roman Wilson was wide open on that corner.
Michigan again bringing some receivers in motion. They've done a lot of that today. McCarthy IDs the mic. Claps his hands, drops back to pass. McCarthy steps up to throw, finds Corum for a gain of maybe 1. McCarthy looked like he wanted to rifle that down the field and instead just dumped it off to his running back, number 2.
And how about true freshman Frederick Moore getting some playing time right there for the Wolverines? You know, Michigan, a lot of young receivers that they're going to be rotating in and out, and, you know, we'll see kind of what sticks for the entire season. Of course, Cornelius Johnson and Roman Wilson are the staple points for this team.
McCarthy hands off to Corum. Corum makes a cut. Corum making a couple guys miss with space. Blake Corum down to the 15. Corum back to his old ways here at the big house, just so shifty.
Oh my goodness, and you're seeing why right there. That jump cut that Blake Corum has and his ability to just make a cut and immediately accelerate is just second to none in college football. That's why this guy was a Heisman candidate last year and likely will be this year.
How about Trevor Keegan throwing blocks downfield? McCarthy claps his hands. It's a bubble screen to Loveland. Loveland fights through tacklers down to about the 11. There's a couple of screen plays we've seen today. One to Edwards and now one to Loveland. Michigan is really high on Colston Loveland, and for good reason. One of the best freshmen in the country last year, and now as a true sophomore is the starting tight end for this team with.
Yeah, and, you know, I hate to always be referring to the NFL, the upcoming NFL draft, but man, does this Michigan team have a lot of, you know, possible draft prospects. Colston Loveland being one of those for, of course, next year's draft.
McCarthy with Corum in the backfield, hands it off to Corum, and Corum is planted at about the 15, nowhere to go. A big-time stop there. That was Michael Edwards off the edge.
Yeah, I should correct what I just said. Colston Loveland's eligible for 2025. He will, of course, be back for the Wolverines for at least another year. Here we go, though. Third down for Michigan.
Excuse me, I believe that was the cornerback, Revel, that came in and made the play there off the edge. The Winston-Salem, North Carolina native. As looks like there's a timeout from, or not. ECU started to head to their sideline, and so we're hearing an object came onto the field, and that's why the play was initially stopped. ECU tried to head to their bench to get some water, and the refs shut that down. McCarthy with Edwards to his left, 2 receivers, left side of the formation, drops back to pass, pressure coming, McCarthy gonna escape, use his legs, steps up, throws, end zone, touchdown, Roman Wilson. He's in for a Michigan touchdown. And the Wolverines score for the first time to open the young season. McCarthy stepped up using his legs and just rifled it to Roman Wilson. That's the escapability of J.J. McCarthy in action. As we get our first look at transfer kicker James Turner. Won the job in camp. And they're going to take a look at this to see if McCarthy was behind the line of scrimmage.
Yeah, I was just going to say, you know, J.J., first of all, one of the things that I absolutely love about J.J. McCarthy is his ability to keep his eyes downfield when he's scrambling. We've seen this all the time with this kid from last season, where J.J., when he breaks out of the pocket, keeps his eyes downfield, lets his receivers possibly make a play, whereas the linebackers in the secondary for the opposing teams will often start taking their eyes off their receivers and start paying attention to McCarthy. And what it does is free up his receivers. He did exactly that right there. I was questioning whether or not he got that throw off behind the line of scrimmage. It looked like he might have passed it, but we'll see. We're not getting any great camera angles right now. But, I mean, what a great play, though, by McCarthy to step up in the pocket. Not too much pressure, but steps up and makes a play. We'll see if it stands here. It would have been a 14-yard touchdown to Roman Wilson.
And we're going to get a replay here on the scoreboard. McCarthy stepping up, and we just can't quite see the line there. It was a great throw, and like you talked about, his ability to keep his eyes downfield. Now we're going to get a better look here.
Yeah, I think he's passed. I think he's past the line.
Now remember, just any part of his body needs to be behind the line when he releases it, but I think he's going to be just a step past as we await the decision.
Ruling of a touchdown stands.
Wow. And so key in terminology right there, he said stands, not confirms, meaning that they weren't able to confirm the touchdown for sure, but there wasn't indisputable evidence to overturn it either. So big for the Wolverines. The 6 on the scoreboard will remain.
And so now we'll get to check out James Turner, the Louisville transfer, Lou Groza Award finalist for his first PAT in the maize and blue. Kick is up, been good. So Michigan on the board first, 7-0 here from Ann Arbor. 5:43 to go in the first quarter of play. It's Michigan 7, East Carolina nothing at the home opener here at the Big House. Again, my name is Kelin Flynn. Alongside me, Neal Sinha, Peter Nasr, and Matthew Levy will be on the second half of WCBN Sports live coverage of Michigan's home opener, Week 1. And it's been a good start, Neal.
It definitely has been, and just as you mentioned, James Turner, I have a little story to tell here, Kelin.
Please do. He's
James
a Michigan
Turner,
native. He
he is a Michigan native. Actually, I had the pleasure of going to middle school with James Turner. Went to Slauson Middle School here in Ann Arbor, Michigan. James, JT as we call him, decided to go to Saline High School instead of Ann Arbor Pioneer, unfortunately, but obviously played on a much better team over there. But JT, he grew up being a Michigan State fan, actually. So for me, it's very funny to see him kicking for the maize and blue today. And, I know he's very happy to make this switch over. I know his family's also very happy to have him come back home a little bit. But what a great opportunity for James Turner. Of course, just as you said, a Lou Groza finalist in 2020. He was named to the Lou Groza watch list. And speaking of watch lists in general, my goodness, this whole Michigan team pretty much is on some sort of watch list. Of course, it all starts with JJ, Blake Corum, and Donovan Edwards, being the big names. I think any of those 3 guys can win any sort of national award depending on how many carries and touches they get. But my goodness, the talent on this Michigan team, I was talking about kicker right there, but everywhere is just quite impressive.
And like we talked about at the top of the show, Michigan, I think you could definitely make the argument that is the team that has the least amount of question marks of any team in the country. Michigan brought back a lot of really talented starters from last season. Again, we talked about the other top teams across the country in their quarterback situations. Michigan, the only playoff team to retain their starting quarterback. TCU lost Max Duggan to the draft. Ohio State lost C.J. Stroud to the draft, and Stetson Bennett is a Los Angeles Ram. And you look at other teams as well. You mentioned Alabama losing Bryce Young, obviously. Jalen Milroe won the job there, but Tyler Buckner was in the conversation as well, the Notre Dame transfer. Notre Dame with a new quarterback in Sam Hartman. USC, one of the other real top programs, the only one that is returning their quarterback from last year, and Heisman Trophy winner Caleb Williams.
Yeah, and the question marks with USC, certainly obviously bring back Caleb Williams. That offense will be one of the best offenses, if not the best in the country. There's no doubt about it under Lincoln Riley. But the defense, again, in that game against San Jose State, didn't really show many signs of improvement, giving up 28 to San Jose State. So, like you said, there's a lot of questions with all these other teams. I think Michigan is one of the safer bets of college football to have a great season, but you never know what's going to happen.
Should mention LSU and Florida State. They're playing tonight. They both are quality programs that return their starters, as Doman will boot it away. And that's going to be another touchback for number 19. A little bit of chippiness on the kickoff there. So Michigan's defense will head back onto the field. Last time out, Mike Sinha still picked off Mason Garcia on a 3rd and long to set up a scoring drive. McCarthy to Roman Wilson as we get another look at the touchdown here on the brand new extra large Jumbotron. Wilson wearing the new number 1.
Big possession here for Eastern Carolina. When you're an underdog in a big game here early, you got to try to keep it close early on. They need some sort of points here.
Garcia claps his hands. Receives the snap, looking downfield, and a whistle blows. We'll await the call.
Charge timeout, East Carolina. They're first. 30 seconds in length.
So ECU will call timeout. Clearly Mike Houston saw something he didn't like out there, and with Minter, Jesse Minter as the head coach today, Neal, we're obviously expecting this Michigan defense to really have it turned on and be extremely stout.
Definitely are. You know, just as we've mentioned, returning a decent amount of starters, of course, mainly coming from the secondary for this Michigan defense. But, you know, listen, I think Jesse Minter is a fantastic assistant. I mean, it's been Jim Harbaugh always raves about his assistants, but genuinely a lot of those guys will be head coaches. That's why it was also great to see Harbaugh give these guys head coaching opportunities. You know, in these first 3 games, Minter gets the nod today, and we'll see, of course, how he does. But so far, so good.
Garcia in the pistol with a lone back behind him. Gonna hand it off, and nothing doing there. That Michigan front has been fantastic. A number of Wolverines in there. Jalen Harrell amongst them. Mason Graham in there as well. And we talked about this front for Michigan. Yeah, they lost Mozzie Smith, but they have a number of guys that are ready to step up. Mason Graham is a true freshman last year, earned a lot of playing time. Chris Jenkins, the senior, a real leader on this team, a captain. Rayshawn Benny, Kenneth Grant got rave reviews in camp. This front, especially the interior, is really strong. Garcia with running back switching from his right to his left, going to drop back to pass. Pressure coming, going to fire downfield, and that's hauled in by Jalen Johnson. Just short of the first down, going to be marked at the 34-yard line.
Tough catch by Jalen Johnson right there. Pretty much caught it on his knees. Had some Michigan defenders coming over the top and hit him a little hard too, but he held on.
Quarterback sneak on a 3rd and 1, and they've got it. Garcia receives a little push from behind by Marlon Gunn, and that's enough for the first. Pirates going to go quick here.
Yeah, I like this from East Carolina. Keep up the pace here. Michigan's often struggled in no-huddle offenses.
Garcia going to roll out to his left and skips it in the dirt, looking for Hatfield.
Bunch of substitutions coming on for the Wolverines. They bring 4 subs there on the back end and on the defensive line. But for Mason Garcia, the question today and the challenge today is the poise. He's playing a big game against a great program. He's got to stay poised. We've seen a few errant throws so far, but you know the talent is possibly there. He also has a decent amount of legs on him. So let's see if he can get the dual threat going.
Garcia claps his hands and will hand it off. Nowhere to go. A couple of Wolverines swarm in there. Mike Barrett, or excuse me, that's Junior Colson making a play. That brings up 3rd and 11 now for ECU. Marlon Gunn had nowhere to go. Something to note, Neal, is we have not seen Will Johnson today. Josh Wallace has been operating as the number 1 corner for Michigan. And it looks like it's Keyshawn Harris out there as the CB2. Garcia receives a high snap, pressure coming off the edge, going to step up and try to run for it, and he can't get the first down. Pickup of about 3 or 4. Excellent discipline from those Michigan linebackers.
Yeah, and the pocket collapse right there on Mason Garcia does a good job stepping up into it. Problem was just didn't really have any receivers open downfield. You know, I think for Mason Garcia today, he's going to need a few more quarterback scrambles, but he's going to need them likely earlier in the set of downs.
4th and 6, East Carolina to punt it away. Jake Thaw Watches it take a couple bounces, and he feels it and is planted inside the 10. Helmet pops off. Well, ECU's down 7. This punt coverage team has been awesome in their 2 opportunities, pinning Michigan at the 3 and now inside the 10.
You know, and it's kind of tough as a kick returner oftentimes when the other punter doesn't get great height. And that's what we've kind of seen so far for Jake Thaw. Not necessarily that he's done a bad job. Right there, I thought he made the right decision of going after the ball. Took quite a licking for it. But, you know, it's just been hard. Luke Larson's punts have been very low today. They've been line drives, but, man, have they rolled on the ground. And it makes a kick returner's job pretty difficult. Now, we'll see if that ends up changing. I don't think it will. But for the Wolverines, you know, expect them to possibly be starting in their own, you know, backed up behind their own 20 or 10 at times. I mean, right here, it's going to be the second possession from within their own 10.
And last time Michigan was pinned deep, they really struggled. 3 straight handoffs, nothing doing. Nearly took a safety, but able to keep it out of the end zone and send it the other way. Really looking for J.J. McCarthy to put together a nice drive here. Offense looked a lot more comfortable on that last possession when they weren't up against their own end zone.
Yeah, and I love to see the Wolverines try to open it up a little bit here. They've tried a little bit. We've seen that JJ's wanted to rifle some passes just deep downfield. Let's see if they get something going. I think it's going to have to start with the run game. You know, oftentimes with this Michigan offense, early on in possessions, they like to get a few handoffs before passes. We'll see if anything of that changes today. Of course, no Jim Harbaugh, no Sharon Moore, so the play calling duties have changed. But, you know, the identity of this team, maybe not necessarily. And so we'll see what Blake Corum can do here. We've already seen him bounce a couple outside. Love to see Donovan Edwards get a few more snaps at the tailback position. You know, you mentioned it earlier, Kelin, of these 2 running backs can play together on the field. Jim Harbaugh and the Michigan coaching staff has talked a lot this season of how Donovan Edwards is a fantastic receiver and allows them to put 2 on the field. And so expect to see more of that, but definitely expect to see Donovan getting some more touches running the ball here.
I think Donovan Edwards is going to be one of the, if not the first running back drafted in the NFL draft. I've been saying this for a long time, since he was a freshman and had that huge receiving game against Maryland. He is the prototypical NFL back for this day and age, and the way Michigan uses him is very NFL prototypical. A receiving back, you don't necessarily want to give him a ton of carries and use him as a workhorse on the ground, but you just like to get him touches in space and scheme him looks. And he's just so good with the ball in his hands and so talented as a receiver.
Oh, he definitely is, and I fully agree with everything that you said. Here he is, I mean, getting the nod here on this first down.
2 receivers in the top of the formation, McCarthy in the pistol with Edwards behind him. Claps his hands a couple of times, hands off. It's play action. McCarthy looking downfield, has his man, a nice catch over the middle of the field. Looks like that was Cornelius Johnson. Big number 6 goes up and gets it for about a 20-yard gain.
And there's kind of what I said. A little bit of a change-up on the play calling. Michigan instead at their own 10 decide to open it up, throwing it deep. JJ a little high of a ball, but Cornelius able to go up and come down with it. Great catch and great pass. I mean, works for the first down there.
McCarthy puts it up high for Cornelius Johnson, and he hauls it in. They bring Max Bredesen in motion into that fullback spot in the pistol. Handoff, Edwards. Edwards, nothing doing there. Pickup of about 1.
You know, another thing of interest and a point to make about Donovan Edwards that I think a lot of people forget, this guy played with a torn patella last season, all season long. Played with a torn patella and then played with a broken wrist at the end of the season against, of course, Ohio State and Purdue. I mean, he is a tough kid.
And in that playoff game.
Yeah, and now you just got to hope that with a full offseason under his belt that he can just turn it up.
And it looks like Darius Clemens is split out wide, one of the first times we've seen him today. Handoff to Edwards, and Edwards picks up about 2 on the carry, brings up 3rd and 7. 1:30 to go here in the first quarter.
Yeah, and this East Carolina defensive front is doing a great job against the rushing game right now for Michigan. Michigan's running backs just have not had a lot of room to work with. And, I mean, Donovan Edwards right there did what he's supposed to, going right by the C gap, but couldn't get anything going.
Edwards the lone back with McCarthy. 2 receivers on the top of the formation, 2 on the bottom. They bring Johnson in motion. McCarthy dropping back, looking to pass. Steps up and throws to Roman Wilson. Wilson going to get out of bounds after a first down pickup. And that's a pickup of 11 on 3rd and 7. Michigan moves the chains.
And Kelin, it might be me. You know, it's very early in the season. I might be reading into this too much, but doesn't JJ just look more comfortable back there? I know he hasn't had a lot of pressure to deal with yet, but it really seems like he's going through the progressions. And, you know, Jim's talked about how he's just a smarter player this season.
It looked like times McCarthy last year would go against the grain. This time just kind of taking what he's given and just looks so smooth and fluid as he will step into a play action here. Going to fire downfield. Got a man. It's Roman Wilson, and a flag is thrown. Easy PI there. Wilson had 6 if he wasn't grabbed. That was the safety, Julius Wood, committing the penalty.
And Roman, of course, not one to shy away from talking, but gave Julius Wood a little bit of his voice right there after that.
Pass interference, defense, number 4. The 15-yard penalty will be enforced from the previous spot. 1st and 10.
I'll tell you what, though. I actually like that penalty by Julius Wood right there. If he doesn't make that, if he doesn't grab Roman Wilson right there, it's likely a touchdown for the Wolverines. You know, obviously you don't want to get beat in coverage, but you also don't want to give up a touchdown.
That was for sure 6. Wilson nearly hauled it in with one hand as he was being dragged to the ground. 2 receivers in the bottom of the formation. Bring a man in motion. McCarthy going to hand it off to Edwards. Edwards bounces it outside, breaks a tackle, and is brought down inside the 40. And the clock's going to tick down. That'll do it for the first quarter of play here from the Big House. Michigan up 7-0 on East Carolina and driving. I'll be handing the play-by-play duties over to my partner here as we bring you the second half coverage from the Big House. Again, Michigan up 7-0 here in Ann Arbor on East Carolina. Don't go anywhere. WCBN Sports live coverage of Michigan football will continue. No commercials, no stoppages. We're just bringing you 3 hours straight of raw, unfiltered Michigan football.
Yes, we are, and that's the beauty of radio. That's the beauty of radio, especially on YouTube as well. You know, we want to, again, thank all of our listeners. We appreciate all of the support that we get. Just so excited here at the WCBN station to get another season underway of Michigan football and in general of all Michigan athletics. I know Kelin brought it up at the top of the broadcast, but we do all sorts of Michigan sports. You name it. We do water polo. We do men's and women's basketball, soccer, everything for the Michigan Wolverines. And so if you're ever trying to listen to a lot of those other sports, in addition to, of course, football, we are your station for that. And, you know, one thing to note, Kelin, about college football this year that we kind of just got a feel for right there is that they're trying to speed up the game. Might not feel like it today with that first quarter taking 45 minutes in total. It's at 12:46 right now. But they're trying to speed up the game. So in the first and third quarters, it's a little bit like the NFL in that when you get a first down, the clock keeps going. They don't stop the clock for the chains to get set. It's changed it up a little bit. Do you like that decision?
I personally don't like it. As a lover of college football, I don't want it to be the NFL. And I know it's kind of a little change, whatever, but I'm not against college football games being longer. And early on in the season, what a lot of people have noticed is essentially that these games aren't significantly shorter. It's just more commercials, which is really frustrating to see how the sport is kind of changing in some of that direction, and that some of the big TV companies are really morphing it into more of a product that benefits them rather than the fan, which can be frustrating, but it's still college football. It's still great to watch and very, very entertaining. So as much as it's a little thing that I personally wouldn't have done, but
it certainly is. You know, and a lot of changes in general with college football. You know, we can't go a whole broadcast without mentioning the conference realignment, of course.
Absolutely. We got to get
some
into
more
that.
news, of course, this summer that if you're listening to this broadcast, you've definitely heard of it. But Oregon and Washington will be joining the Big Ten. The Pac-12 is dissolving. It is no longer Of course, they still have 4 teams left over that need to figure out where they want to go. Excuse me, down to 2. But Kelin, what do you think about all that's gone on in college football with the conference realignment specifically? Do you like the move of Oregon and Washington coming to the Big Ten?
So I think it's good to establish that as a Michigan student, it's really easy for me to see some of the positives of it because we're not losing any of our traditional rivalries. We're not losing any of the – Michigan still is going to play Ohio State every year, still going to play Michigan State every year. We're not losing that. For some of these schools like a Oregon or a Washington, the Apple Cup is dead. Unless they maintain an every year non-conference game, it's dead. Oklahoma State, the Red River, or excuse me, the Oklahoma State is dead. Bedlam is dead. And so that's just really frustrating to see.
Here we go, back to football here in the second quarter. McCarthy lined up in the pistol set. He'll drop under center in the I formation. Bredesen behind with Blake Corum. Hands it off. Blake Corum breaks it up field. Blake Corum to the 30, the 20. He is back, folks. Blake Corum dives to the end zone. And what's the call? Touchdown, or excuse me, he's just short, I believe. I thought he got in, man. I was so excited to make that call.
Oh, I thought he got in too.
Blake Corum, they say he's marked down at the 2. Man, we've been waiting to see a run just broken free, a wide open. I think that was the B or C gap right there. How about that, Kelin?
I mean, Corum, just such great vision, finds the lane, and the offensive line, the blocking scheme, nearly perfect as always, and just barely chased down at the end there.
2 tight ends set here, jumbo formation for the Wolverines. McCarthy hands it off. Corum rushes upfield, diving into the end zone. What's the call here? We're going to have to wait on the officials. The Michigan players, of course, hoping that he's in. I think he's going to be just short. Oh, and there you go. He's actually in. Blake Corum, touchdown for the Wolverines. Make that 2 today for Michigan. 13-0 is now the score here with 14-13 to go. 7-play, 90-yard drive. Took 3 minutes, 47 seconds for the Wolverines, and they're getting started early here in the 2023 season.
Corum, what does that say? 60 rushing yards, or 56 rushing yards, and on 6 carries. He pops a big one that time. Something we have seen a lot of over the last couple years here in Ann Arbor.
James Turner on for the extra point. 13-0 again is the score. We're waiting on the officials here. Tommy Doman, the holder for Michigan this year for his special teams counterpart. And we're still waiting on the officials. Not really too sure what's going on or if we'll have a review. Now the officials are going to raise the play clock back to 25 seconds here. So Michigan's special teams unit will get reset. Turner takes his 3 steps back and 2 steps left. And right through the uprights for Michigan. It's now 14-0 here early in the second quarter. Just 47 seconds into the second, and Michigan has already added to their lead. Blake Corum with a great touchdown coming off a big-time run for 37 yards and then pounds it up right the middle. Starting where he left off last year, Kelin, what makes you so excited about Blake Corum and his chances possibly for the Heisman this year or any other big awards?
Well, it's because of how talented he is and how good of a football player he is. And obviously the offensive line helps out a lot with that too, and what they do. They've obviously been recognized for their accomplishments. The first team to go back-to-back winning the Joe Moore Award for the best offensive line in the country. But, I mean, yeah, this two-headed monster. Do I think Corum will win the Heisman? No, as much as it kind of hurts to say. The numbers a running back needs to put up to get to that is absurd, and I think it's just really difficult for a running back to put that up, especially in a split backfield. But Michigan fans are very spoiled.
And here's the kickoff. Tommy Doman boots it deep. The return by the Pirates. They'll take it out here all the way up, and then he gets lit up at the 16-yard line for Eastern Carolina. There's a flag on the play, though.
Big hit.
Yeah, my goodness. I missed who it was that made the hit, but that came out of nowhere for sure.
And the last time down on the kickoff, there's a little bit of chippiness going on special teams. Looks like this one is going to be going against ECU.
Javius Bond was the returner for East Carolina, and the officials are pushing the ball back. They're going down to the 8 or 9 yard line here. We'll call it the 8.5. East Carolina didn't get a call.
Official, our head referee Greg Sujak didn't get his mic on, but.
And here we go for East Carolina. 2 receivers upright. Garcia claps his hands, tosses it off. Up the middle there is number 0 for the Pirates. That's Jari Patterson. Barely got back to the line of scrimmage there. So it'll be 2nd and 10 here.
And Patterson, another one of these smaller receivers for ECU. Kerry King, Hatfield, Patterson, all on the smaller side.
Once again, 2 receivers offset right. Garcia claps the hands. Drops back, throws it. Patterson makes the grab right near the Big Ten logo. It's a first down for East Carolina at the 28-yard line. And excuse me, we actually have a substitution. Alex Flynn is in at quarterback for East Carolina, number 15, the redshirt junior out of Fletcher, North Carolina.
And it had been talked about that, like Peter said on the pregame show, this starting quarterback was never announced, and Garcia was the assumed starter.
Flynn drops back, pressure coming, gets lit up and misses JSI Hatfield just behind him. Michigan with a big hit, and there's a flag on the play in the pocket. Likely going to be roughing the passer possibly here on Michigan. Wow. Instead, we can't hear the refs. I don't think they're turning on their mics right now, but a penalty on the Pirates right there. I'm assuming it's going to be holding, but they're going all the way back to, I believe, their 8-yard line.
That looked like the signal.
And it is holding on Parker Moorer for East Carolina. So 1st and 20. You don't get too many of these here, but Alex Flynn in the shotgun. Offset is Rajay Harris. Here's a snap. Flynn hands it off. Harris breaks it out left. Harris goes up the field all the way to the 30-yard line and pushed out of bounds by the Wolverines. Big pickup, though, for East Carolina. They got it right back, right there.
And Harris just kind of bounced that to the outside, and Michigan couldn't quite keep contained. Harris with plenty of green grass in front with the biggest pickup of the day for ECU. And really interesting to see what the quarterback situation is here for the Pirates, if Flynn plays the rest of this game or if they'll rotate Garcia back in.
A little wishbone formation here for the Pirates with Harris back there with Flynn. Sends a man in motion. He'll fire it to him. That's a backwards pass up the middle, or excuse me, up the side, all the way to the 34-yard or 33-yard line, excuse me. And that was Javius Bond, the kick returner, getting an offensive snap for the Pirates. And here we go, 3rd and 1 with 11:50 to go in the second quarter.
Last time ECU went straight to the quarterback sneak. We'll see what they do here with a different quarterback in the game.
So Flynn in the gun, little bunch set right, claps his hands, a couple, maybe 3 times, fakes the toss. Flynn will go up the middle, reaching for the first down, and he'll have it. Great play right there by the redshirt junior, up to the 36-yard line, got about 3, and just enough for East Carolina to advance the chains.
And that's excellent play design from this Pirate offense. Offensive coordinator Donnie Kirkpatrick got deep in his bag on that one. Got Michigan going one direction and just needed to pick up the yard.
Flynn once again in the gun. Harris offset to the left. Flynn drops back, Cornerback blitz by the Wolverines, flies it deep, and then it's possibly picked off. Is it? Josh Wallace appears to have it. He does. What a catch by Josh Wallace, the graduate from Bowie, Maryland, the 6 foot, 190-pound player. I mean, that's just kind of a jump ball that flew with a little bit, not enough air, and Wallace makes a great play.
Yeah, and it was just a little bit of a late throw from Alex Flynn. He threw it up down the sideline, but the way he placed the ball, he didn't give his receiver any more room to run upfield, and so Josh Wallace was right there with him. It was excellent coverage, and he just kind of boxed out the smaller receiver, made the play, kept his feet in bounds, and the UMass transfer in his first game wearing that winged helmet, making an impact. The second interception for this defense. Really something you like to see from the veteran secondary.
Definitely 2 takeaways early here for this Michigan team. An opportunistic defense is what it sounds like and feels like today. We'll see if they can keep it going. How about that, though, Kelin? I mean, it feels like the 2 drives that East Carolina advanced the chains and were getting downfield a little bit. I know they were still in their own territory, but they got past the 40-yard line. They turn it over. Michigan gets it right back. I mean, it's just a killer for the underdog team when you're just trying to stay in the game early.
Well, and I think the big part of this is Michigan's dominance in the trenches, and that's where this team's success always starts, is when Michigan is able to put pressure on the quarterback with their big guys up front. And it's not just with Harrell and Stewart off the edge. It's Rayshawn Benny. It's Kenneth Grant. It's Chris Jenkins moving that pocket in the middle as well. And that forces the quarterback to make off-platform throws or have to rush some things. And just like we saw there, Josh Wallace in excellent position along the sideline. A throw that maybe was a little bit rushed or not quite put in the right spot by Flynn, and Wallace just makes an excellent play.
Check 1-2.
Toe tapping on the sidelines.
Check 1-2.
And it looks like our officials.
Referee mic check.
They're
back.
testing out the ref mics here. We apologize for that audio coming out. There's a chance that interception will not stand. The Michigan defense right now is in a huddle on the field. They haven't moved the chains yet either. So we'll see what happens with that. As of right now.
Referee.
And my goodness, we just keep hearing the referee mic coming out of nowhere. But we'll see what happens here. The Michigan defense is on the field talking it over.
And it looks like the ECU offense is still out there as well. They haven't moved the ball to the point of the interception. Ball is still placed.
Just been a little confusing here with the communication coming from the officials today. Not hearing a few of the penalties that have been called, and right here, and again, just we apologize for the lack of information, but it looks like, yeah, it is going to be East Carolina ball still. So that interception gets wiped off the board as it appears that Wallace didn't have possession inbounds, likely falling out of bounds. And so instead it'll be 2nd and 10, ball on the 36 here for East Carolina. And boy, oh boy, does that change things.
I mean, still, all those things still hold the same. Wallace unable to get his feet in bounds, but the process is still excellent from that Michigan defense. Sinha still barking out orders to Keon Sabb.
Jalen Johnson goes in motion, trips right. Flynn looks for Jalen Johnson, finds him at the 40, and then he gets thrown backwards by Mike Sinha still. The officials will mark him down at the 41-yard line. So a solid pickup makes this 3rd and 5 here with 10:35 to go.
How about that tackle in space from Mike Sinha still? Jalen Johnson, 6'2", and 10 pounds heavier than Mike Sinha still. Mike Sinha still 5'10", a $182, wraps up and makes that play.
Michigan possibly showing blitz here. Mike Barrett looked like he wanted to run right up the gut on the hard count. Flynn now in the gun, trips right again. Flynn barking out orders, takes the snap, drops back, looking, floats the ball deep. Sinha still in coverage and breaks it up. Incomplete. 4th and 5 for the Pirates at the 41. Great defense by the graduate.
And both Josh Wallace and Mike Sinha still in the area there. Their receivers' routes were kind of converging on each other. Both tremendous coverage. That was a really, really tight window for Alex Flynn to fit that ball into, and he just couldn't quite do it. Sinha still in Wallace. The secondary's been fantastic today.
So here's the upcoming punt for the Pirates. Booted deep. Michigan got a little bit of pressure, a little wobbly one. Jake Thaw will watch it hit the ground. He'll catch it, fielding it up. Gets about 4 yards up to the 24-yard line for the Wolverines. So 14-0 is the score for Michigan above East Carolina here with 9:48 to go in the second quarter. Kelin, a little bit, some very interesting events have gone on a little bit as of recently. Of course, Michigan thought they had the interception. It was wiped off the board. Still ended up getting the stop, though, and so now the ball at the 24.
Now we get to see McCarthy and company again. And the last time, the only time they haven't been backed up inside their own 2, they've been pretty successful.
So here we go, man in motion. They toss it to Donovan Edwards, breaking it upfield. Here it goes Edwards, gets just past the first down marker for Michigan all the way up to the 35-yard line. A little touch pass by J.J. McCarthy as Donovan Edwards came in motion.
And that's something we've seen a lot in the NFL from teams like the Kansas City Chiefs that get playmakers in motion and just get them the ball. And look at all these blockers moving across the field. Khalil Mullings, A.J. Barner, Zinter running out on the pull, Miles Hinton in there.
And Mullings still in for the Wolverines, trips right, Donovan Edwards in the slot. J.J. makes a adjustment at the line. Mullings now goes to his right. McCarthy takes a snap. He'll hand it off to big number 20 up the middle, and he'll get stuffed. Nowhere really to go there for the Wolverines.
And interestingly, we've seen that Carson Barnhart has been taking snaps at left tackle, Miles Hinton at right tackle. But now Trente Jones will check in as kind of that 6th offensive lineman.
Michigan loves those sets. 6 offensive linemen. Darius Clemens spread out all the way on the right. Bredesen also in. McCarthy will hand it off to Donovan Edwards, and he will get hit from behind the line. They lose a yard right there. It'll be 3rd and 11.
And this speed of East Carolina has been really effective in the run game. Michigan has had a couple of run plays that have popped, but they've also had a lot of plays that have really just been negligible or 1-2 yard carries. It's not a consistent 4, 5, 6 yards of carry, which we saw a lot from Michigan, especially against inferior opponents last season.
8 minutes to go. They go trips right. Roman Wilson in the slot. McCarthy drops back. Great pickup of pressure by Donovan Edwards. JJ lets it go deep, and Cornelius Johnson hauls it in at the block M. Another first down for Michigan into East Carolina territory at the 49.
And how about that pocket awareness there from J.J. McCarthy? This is something that you don't really have. It's tough to have as a first-year starter without a lot of experience. McCarthy, now in his 2nd year starting under center for Michigan, feels the pocket kind of collapsing around him, just drifts back a little bit, keeping his eyes downfield, and delivers a strike to Cornelius Johnson. Doesn't quite hit him in stride, but still a big pickup for the Wolverines.
So ball on the 49. J.J. checks his little playbook right there. 7 minutes to go here in the second quarter, and J.J.'s going to call a timeout. Michigan was not getting set.
Charge timeout. Michigan. They're first. It will also be a media timeout.
So first timeout for the Wolverines today. East Carolina with 2 remaining. The Wolverines now with 2 remaining. With 7:08 to go in the second quarter, Michigan with the lead 14-0 against the East Carolina Pirates. Kelin, have you been surprised so far? Of course, we're only 23 minutes into the game here, but anything that's maybe surprised you, or has it kind of stuck to the status quo of what you expected?
I think what we've seen so far is Michigan being, in terms of their run-pass split, exactly what Jim Harbaugh said. 10 passing attempts, 12 rushing attempts for the Wolverines, and Jim Harbaugh said he wants to get a lot closer to that 50-50 split rather than a 60-40 is what he described last year as, and I think Michigan is getting closer to that. I mean, the numbers say that they are, and I think that's really key for Michigan to take that next step this year. Is the passing game has to be more effective. It has to be more explosive. They have to be able to lean on that more than last year. because last year they were able to just ground and pound against almost everyone they played and just out-physical them. And that's something you want to be able to do that can be very effective, but you really need to have that explosive passing game when you get into games against teams that have high-powered offenses, like in Ohio State, like a potential Penn State or a college football playoff game or a high-quality bowl game. You need to be able to go up against those high-powered offenses, and having a passing game that's efficient and explosive is the best way to combat that.
Yeah, and I was just going to say, it feels like not that this team was capped in terms of its ceiling last year, but you kind of have to think maybe a little bit when you don't have such an explosive passing game. And just as you said, if they can develop that this year, my goodness, how tough is it going to be to defend against these Wolverines when they can run it all over you and pass it over your heads as well? And so, we'll see what happens this season, but a lot of very exciting storylines definitely for this Michigan team as we get ready to come back into action here.
And it's kind of, I don't know, it's not necessarily a new thing, but I think J.J. McCarthy is one of the, not biggest question marks, but most interesting things to look out for in these early games this season. Is there a big difference in his play from last year to this year? And early on, he's looked very calm, cool, and collected and composed, and looks like he's out there running and commanding the offense.
McCarthy under center sends Max Bredesen into motion to the left side of the offensive line. J.J. now drops back, fakes the play action. McCarthy looking deep. He'll fire it deep. Wide open is Colston Loveland all the way to the 25-yard line, and he gets brought down by Julius Wood. Michigan again moving the chains here with ease. Man, there have been wide open receivers, Kelin, coming across the center of the field here.
Colston Loveland just schemed up there. Michigan, a lot of routes going deep down the field. Loveland sneaks in that intermediate area. McCarthy puts it right on him.
Carmelo English getting some extended playing time here for the Wolverines at the wide receiver position. Wing T formation for the Wolverines. Blake Corum and Donovan Edwards to his left and right. JJ in the gun. Claps the hands, drops back. Michigan passing again. JJ is going to let it go, looking for Loveland. One of his favorite tight ends makes the catch all the way at the 10-yard line and brought down. Michigan again gets another move of the chains.
And how about that throw from J.J. McCarthy? There's two defenders in the area of Loveland there. He throws it up high where his big guy can just go up and get it. Loveland 6'5", 265, extends, and McCarthy just puts it right in that tight window between two defenders.
Trips left for the Wolverines. Blake Corum's the running back. JJ takes a snap. Looking left, JJ going through the progressions, bounces outside of the pocket, still looking, fires across the middle, touchdown, Michigan. It's Roman Wilson again, and for the second time, JJ extends the play a little bit, getting out of the pocket, allowing number one to just get open in the end zone, and what a great little pitch and catch there for the Wolverines. 20-0 is now the score.
And man, Neal, have I been impressed with JJ McCarthy so far. I know it's East Carolina, it's a team that got shredded through the air last season, but seeing the little things, McCarthy still putting these throws on the money, extending the play, using his legs, and finding the open man.
James Turner on for the extra point, up and through the uprights, or excuse me, no, he missed it. Wow, what a surprise that is. Just his fourth ever missed PAT for James Turner. The special teams coaching staff getting him some pats on the head here, trying to get him going again. But what a surprise there. The score will remain 20-0 with 5:32 to go here in the second quarter.
Wow, that was surprising to me too. Yeah, like you said, only 3 career missed PATs at Louisville. He's a very efficient kicker.
You know, and from our view, it kind of looked like he went through the uprights there, and you're just so used to seeing, great kickers like James Turner making those. What a surprise. Nonetheless, though, Michigan will take that touchdown.
Referee mic check, 1, 2.
And Wolverines, we apologize for the ref audio coming through. But, a very solid start to this game for Michigan. J.J. McCarthy, 147 yards and 2 passing touchdowns. Kelin, he's only had 1 incompletion. I mean, has J.J. done everything that you had hoped for so far? I mean, we'll see how much he gets to play into the second half, but my goodness, does he look primed for a national run at some awards here?
Yeah, I mean, I was just saying, you can talk about the quality of competition, but the process is there. McCarthy keeping his eyes downfield, delivering balls to receivers on the move. That last throw to Colston Loveland was my favorite throw of his today. 2 defenders in the area of Loveland, and he puts it over the top one and just out of reach of the one that was kind of trailing Loveland. Using his receiver size, I really think that Loveland is due for a huge year because we know how much Jim Harbaugh loves to get the tight end involved. And his chemistry with Roman Wilson has been fantastic too, especially on broken plays. Wilson just so fast and so smart with that connection with McCarthy, able to get to the spots and find the soft spots in the defense.
You know, and it's got to be hard for defenses when you got to respect JJ's running ability on plays like that when he breaks it out of the pocket, because as linebackers and as safeties, you want to creep up and try to get ready for a tackle. But then when you got shifty receivers like Roman Wilson, they can get open so easily when JJ does that. I mean, just as you said, just really impressive so far. And how about for the receivers? It's got to be fun playing with a quarterback like that. I mean, Roman Wilson, 4 catches for 51 yards and now 2 touchdowns.
And should have had more if not for that PI earlier. That could have been a 60-yard touchdown for Wilson as well. He was somebody I was just going to say has really impressed me today, kind of filling in for Ronnie Bell, stepping up into that Ronnie Bell role, I guess you could say. And he's a little bit better of an athlete than Bell was. Probably the fastest guy on the team. Wilson can absolutely fly. He could be in for a big season if McCarthy's able to play like he has been today.
5:32 to go. Here's the kickoff from Tommy Doman. This one getting some air under it. Javius Bond will just take the fair catch, and the Pirates will start at the 25. East Carolina with just 65 yards of offense, 34 through the air and 31 on the ground. Michigan in comparison with 208, 147 of those coming through the air and 61 by ground. Only 3 penalties today. It's been a pretty clean opener. I mean, usually, you know, early on in college football, you get a lot of penalties thrown, a little bit of discipline issues, and but not today. We haven't seen the handkerchief too much.
No, and you've been hitting the same guys for months, and you get to finally go out and hit somebody that's not on your team, and you can really let it fly. You don't want to hit your own guys too hard, and sometimes you see teams go a little over the top with that. We haven't really seen that today.
And before the snap here, we get a timeout.
Charge
Mike
timeout.
Houston.
East Carolina. They're second. 30 seconds in length.
And East Carolina right there, you know, Mike Houston probably didn't like what was out there on the field and the play set. But if you're East Carolina, you're down 20 here. You have 5:32 to go. Kelin, how do you try to claw yourself back into this game and just try to at least make it interesting?
Well, first of all, you can't turn the football over. This Michigan defense, especially in the secondary, has been really making plays on the football. The Josh Wallace one didn't stand, but they've been making plays on the ball when it's in the air. Alex Flynn has to settle down and just try to take what he's given. Keep the ball close to the line of scrimmage. Try to get your guys in space and let them make plays, and then pick your spots accordingly to take some shots. Michigan with 2 backup safeties in the game. Got to try to take advantage of that.
Back to action here. Flynn takes a snap, drops back, steps up in the pocket, rolling left. Flynn looking for a receiver. He'll step up past the line of scrimmage and gets dragged down up to the 28. Michael Barrett was on the tackle. 3-yard gainer for the redshirt junior. So 2nd and 7, ball on the 28 with 5:10 to go here in the second quarter. Empty set now for Carolina.
And it's the 2 sophomores, the backup, Zeke Berry and Keon Sabb, and it's safety for Michigan with Page and Rod Moore both dealing with some injuries. We knew they weren't going to get a ton of play today.
Flynn now in the empty set, fires immediately off to his left and thrown out of bounds is Jarrett Garner on the tackle. It looks like it was Keon Sabb. A small pickup to the 34, so it's going to be 3rd and 2. Ball on the 33.
How about Keon Sabb making plays? I've heard a lot of good things from spring ball about Keon Sabb as well, that he's somebody that's going to force this coaching staff to put him in the games because of how well he's played at practice.
Michigan shifts the defensive front. They're now showing 5 on the line here. Flynn in the little bit of a wishbone or wing T here. Flynn drops back, looking, drops it off to Bonds underneath. First down, East Carolina. Bonds still going, breaks another tackle and another, and then eventually wrestled down at the 47-yard line. Nice pickup there for East Carolina.
And for Mike Houston, that's what you got to do. Donnie Kirkpatrick, the offensive coordinator, you've got to try to create space for your playmakers and get them the football. Bond, one of those guys that's really shifty and can make plays with the ball in his hand. Excellent job getting him in space there in Michigan. Got to execute, just got to wrap him up and tackle.
2 receivers on both sides of the field here for East Carolina. They'll hand it off to Rajay Harris up the middle, and he gets hit relatively quickly, only about a yard or 2.
And Neal, what have you thought about this Michigan front? I've been pretty impressed. Derek Moore stepping up, somebody that's going to have to make a jump this year and really impact the game more. We've talked about the interior guys a lot. That combination of Graham, Grant, Jenkins, and you could throw Rashawn Benny in there as well.
Timeout for an injured player on the offense. Will also be immediate timeout.
Yeah, and you just heard it over the ref mics, but injured player for East Carolina. We'll wait to see who it is. But to answer your question, Kelin, I think it's been an encouraging start for this Michigan defensive front. I mean, only 37 rushing yards for the Pirates today, and their yards per carry just hasn't been great at 3.1. And so, I think Michigan's off to a good start. Would love to see some crazy plays by Chris Jenkins, maybe some highlights coming, but not really sure that this is the game in which we'll see that. And the player down for East Carolina as he gets up was number 77, Walter Stribling, the junior from Troy, Virginia. Gets up and he's walking off the field.
Please reset the game clock to 3:22.
And Kelin, I mean, how difficult is it, though, for a quarterback like Alex Flynn, who, doesn't get the start, and then in the very beginning of the second quarter is told by Mike Houston, go in. You're going to make some plays for us today. You got to give us a chance. I mean, how difficult is that for the backup to come in, when he's not prepared for that necessarily? And maybe he was ready to take a few snaps, but didn't start the game.
Well, and Peter talked about at the top of the show that Mason Garcia wasn't named the starter coming into this game. It was assumed he was going to be the one that was the first quarterback under center, but Mike Houston did not name a starting quarterback for the season, and clearly Garcia did not do enough to impress. We've got no indication that he was injured. So clearly Flynn getting a look here from these coaches to see what they have in him in live competition. East Carolina, knowing this isn't necessarily, this is obviously a game they would love to win and would make their season to win this game, but just try to get something out of it at this point and figure out what you've got in some of these quarterbacks on your roster. Again, Garcia, more talented, I'd say, has a cannon of an arm and has a lot of those tools, but underthrew that pass that was picked off by Mike Sainra still. I don't think he played particularly poorly, though. I guess that's kind of my surprise, is that he got pulled so soon.
Yeah.
And maybe we'll get word that there was an injury and we're up here discussing this and it's kind of completely invalid.
It's all
but
moot. Well, we'll have to wait and see as the offense is back out for East Carolina. 3:22 to go, 2nd and 7. You're listening to WCBN Sports on YouTube. Ball is on Michigan's 45-yard line here. Alex Flynn, of course, is the quarterback next to Rajay Harris, just as we've been discussing. Flynn, couple of claps of the hand, and then a flag is thrown. It's going to be a false start.
Number 33, offense, 5-yard penalty, remains 2nd down.
And number 33 is who it was called on, Brock Spalding, the wide receiver for East Carolina. Just the 4th penalty of this first half here. And the Pirates will be backed up to their own 49 now. Flynn again in the shotgun, as he has been in pretty much this whole quarter here. Now drops back, looking, fires immediately outside. It's caught by number 1, Jalen Johnson. He runs immediately out of bounds at the 43 of Michigan.
And ECU, coming into this game, they lost all their top playmakers on offense from last season. Their 2 1,000-yard receivers and their top running back from last season all gone. So they have a lot of production to make up at those skill position spots. And Jalen Johnson is one of the guys that this coaching staff is really looking forward to filling in some of that.
So here we go, trips left for East Carolina. Flynn again in the shotgun. Rajay Harris next to him, off to his left. Hands it, or excuse me, doesn't hand it off. Now he's going to run up the middle. Flynn reaching for the first down. He'll get it just enough all the way to the 35-yard line on 3rd and 5. They needed 5, and Alex Flynn gave them 8.
That's a great pickup from your redshirt junior quarterback there. Getting the job done. Doesn't need to be pretty. As ECU swaps out a couple of receivers here.
And I'll tell you what, as this possession continues to extend, so does that clock. It continues to wind down, and so we'll see if the Michigan offense will get another possession or if this is it. Flynn now hands it off up the middle to about the 38. It's about a gain of 1 or 2. Junior Colson made the tackle for the Wolverines. It was Javius Bond on the carry, the kick returner right there. A little bit of a gadget player for the East Carolina team. He plays a little bit of receiver, plays a little bit of tailback as well. And so trips left now for Alex Flynn. Michigan dropping back, showing a 4-man front. Junior Colson's going to rush off the edge. Flynn now drops back, looking, rushing to his left, under pressure from Chris Jenkins, goes back to his right, and then eventually throws it off to the sidelines and out of bounds. It'll be an incomplete pass. Great pressure by Chris Jenkins right there up the middle.
And Jenkins chasing him down. You mentioned one of Bruce Feldman's freaks on that list, and came off that right edge there and just chased him all over the pocket. Flynn finally able to shake him just for a second and get rid of it, whip it out of bounds. This is a big 3rd and 8 here at the 33-yard line. Kicker Andrew Conrad's career long is 47. This would be a 50-yard field goal.
Very, very late substitution by the Wolverines right there. We'll see if the officials give more play clock. They don't. Flynn drops back, takes the snap very quickly. Looking, he's going to air it out deep, looking for Jalen Johnson, who makes the catch. Oh, he dropped it, I think. At least the Michigan players thought he did. Jesse Minter can't believe it, but the officials are going to say that he held onto the ball at the 15. It looked like the ball came out, though, at the end there, Kelin.
The ruling on the field is of a catch, out of bounds.
And we'll see what the Michigan sideline does. Yeah, that ball came out. I cannot believe that call. My goodness. Wow. And now the officials are going to stop the play, and of course they're going to go review this. Jesse Minter was furious.
The ruling on the field was of a catch. Previous play is under review.
And that was the side judge, Jared Flesh, and the headline judge, Matthew Griebel, that came over and discussed it. Jared Flesh was right there, the one that made the initial call. Him and Griebel discussed real quick as we get another look at it on the scoreboard.
What a great job by Keon Sabb, though. I tell you what, my goodness, did he get that right hand underneath and just poke the ball out. I cannot believe that they call that a catch, though. The ball was rolling on the sideline.
He didn't even hit the ground. That ball came out before he hit the ground. That was, like you said, an excellent play from Keon Sabb to get his arm in there and punch that ball out. This has to be brought back.
Shades of the Odell Beckham phantom catch against the Detroit Lions right there, where the ball was just rolling on the ground and they call it as a catch. I mean, I cannot believe that they didn't see that. They had the side judge right there.
And even as Johnson's coming down, like in the air, grabbing it, Sabb's punching at that ball immediately. And before he's even coming down to the ground, that ball looks like it could be moving around a little bit. I'd be pretty stunned if this stood.
Nonetheless, of course, just as you said, we can talk about how crazy of a call it was, but it's inherently going to come back here, as the officials have already moved the ball all the way back to the 33-yard line. So keep in mind, that was on 3rd down.
After review, the pass is incomplete. It'll be 4th and 8 at the 33-yard line. The clock stays as it is.
So now you got 4th and 8 at the 33-yard line, 53 seconds left here. The place kicker for East Carolina is Andrew Conrad, sophomore, coming in here for East Carolina. This would be a 50-yard field goal.
This would be a career long for Conrad by 3 yards.
So great bit of defense by the Wolverines. Will it be a 4-point play, as Jesse Minter likes to call it, or will it be a 7-point play? Here's the kick by Conrad. Up. Does it have the leg? It does, but it is off to the right. No good. Michigan will get the ball at their own 33, up 20-0 with 48 seconds to go.
And I love this for this Michigan offense now, because we're going to get a chance to see them in the 2-minute drill here. And it looks like the starters are still going to be out there, likely their last drive, their last series of the game. As we saw last year, this coaching staff would play the starters pretty much through the first half, and then would start to mix in a lot of the second and third stringers in the second half. Likely the last possession of the day for these starters. Love to see what they do with 48 seconds and 2 timeouts.
Great point. JJ in the gun. We'll see if it's a passing play to start out. Yes, it is. McCarthy drops back immediately, fires right, looking for Cornelius Johnson. He makes the grab on the ground. They call it a catch at the 38. Michigan rushing now in the no-huddle offense. The clock is ticking down.
And McCarthy struggled on those throws a little bit last year. Not pinpoint accuracy that time.
JJ drops back, looking. He'll go out left to his receiver, who makes the catch. That's number 3 for the Wolverines, Frederick Moore, the true freshman, out of St. Louis, Missouri, making the catch. So 23 seconds to go. Clock stops briefly for the moving of the chains here. JJ now in the gun, drops back, trips right. McCarthy looking up the center, finds Roman Wilson up the seam, up to the 42-yard line. Another first down for Michigan here.
Got to call timeout here.
Charge timeout. Michigan. They're second. 30 seconds in length.
Kelin, you called it. Jesse Minter uses the second timeout right there. 14 seconds left here. Michigan again leading 20-0 over East Carolina. Ball is on the 42-yard line of the Pirates. It'll be a 1st and 10. Are you looking deep here, or are you just trying to get in a field goal range?
I think you're trying to put as many points on the board as you can, and if you're McCarthy, you're trying to obviously take that shot downfield if it's there. You've got 1 timeout in your back pocket, sitting at about the 41-yard line here. 14 seconds, meaning you've got 2, maybe 3 plays max. Really, you've got 2 plays. I think Michigan tries to get about half of it here if you can. You're going to have something in the end zone, but you've got to have 1 or 2 routes that are getting inside that 20 to 25-yard range, and you're getting out of bounds.
So here we go, 14 seconds. Michigan putting the ball in their junior from LaGrange, Illinois, IMG Academy. J.J. McCarthy trying to make some plays here through the air. McCarthy drops back, looking, fires off to the left. Frederick Moore makes the catch and thrown out of bounds. That will stop the clock. Great play by Fred Moore with 8 seconds left. Michigan keeping the offense on momentarily at least. Not going to be a field goal right now.
And you've got 1 more play here.
Yeah, likely 1 more offensive snap before special teams play. The ball is at the 32-yard line. We'll see what the Wolverines do with JJ, who's 16 of 17 passing today. He's been just on it. 181 yards through there.
And how about Fred Moore? He's really looked good, getting the nod in the 2-minute drill to head out there and run with the ones. And the whole field's open here because of your timeout.
Twins left. Cornelius Johnson in motion. JJ, quick pass. Missed Cornelius Johnson just behind him. It'll be 3rd and 1, 5 seconds to go. And I think Minter is likely going to have to bring out the field goal squad here. He will. James Turner coming out, attempting what will be his first field goal attempt in the maize and blue.
Ball on the 32. This is a long field goal. 49-yarder, career long of 50 for Turner. And coming off the heels of that missed PAT.
He definitely has the leg. Back in high school, this guy made a couple 57-yarders for Saline High School. So we'll see what Turner can do here from 49. And quickly, we're going to get a timeout from Mike Houston.
Charge timeout, East Carolina. Their third and final. 30 seconds in length.
Pirates trying to ice the kicker. Michigan still took the snap, a little bit of a practice kick for James Turner, and he kicked it right through the upright. So,
correction, full timeout.
Do you like that decision, though, Kelin, trying to ice the kicker? I feel like I always like it a little bit.
You have to at this point.
Yeah.
There's no reason not to. Those timeouts don't come with you to the next half. We're not playing basketball. But that's what you've got to do.
So 20-0, still the score here in Ann Arbor, Michigan, in the Big House. It's a maze out, beautiful day. A little bit over 80 degrees here in Ann Arbor. Tell you what, though, the East Carolina fans, they did a solid job showing out. Would not have expected too many of them, but a few sections here at the very top are all purple and white. So
there's a lot of purple up there.
There definitely is. James Turner in the special teams unit out again. Turner looking to make his first field goal as a Wolverine. Here's a snap up and down. Turner, the kick is up. A ton of leg on it, and it's through the uprights and good. James Turner has his first field goal as a Wolverine, and the score is now 23-0 at halftime. Jesse Minter in his first half as a head coach for the Michigan Wolverines. A scoring drive, a 6-play, 34-yard drive, 48 seconds, and it counts for 3. We'll see how much more of the starters we see in the second half. That'll remain to be seen. But, Kelin, your thoughts on the first half?
Yeah, I was really impressed with what I saw from this Michigan team. The defense especially. That was something that was a little bit concerning to me before the game. I thought there was a chance that ECU would get to make some plays on a defense that was missing a lot of starters, particularly in the back end. We haven't seen Will Johnson today. Makari Page and Rod Moore both have not been out there. It's been Zeke Berry and Keon Sabb. And how about Keon Sabb? He is going to get my first star of that first half. Keon Sabb got a ton of play time there, and he absolutely was phenomenal. Had the punch out there to break up the 3rd and long completion. Had a couple of other nice plays in coverage. Was tackling in space. Keon Sabb played a fantastic first half of football. He's somebody that I think this coaching staff is going to be really looking for ways to get him on the field this season. And this football team's really lucky because when Makari Page and Rod Moore head off to the NFL at the end of this cycle, they've got 2 guys in Zeke Berry and Keon Sabb waiting in the wings to take over and fill those roles. No questions asked. I'll go give my second star to J.J. McCarthy. I think what he did out there on the field was just excellent, looked calm, looked smooth, I think is the best way to put it. At times I think he would get a little bit rushed last year, and obviously not the top competition Michigan's going to be facing this year, but McCarthy looked smooth in the pocket, extended plays, kept his eyes downfield, had a great presence of the rush, and delivered accurate balls down the field to Colston Loveland and Roman Wilson in particular. And I guess for my third star, do you want to give a star, Neal?
I'll go with Fred Moore. I mean, a true freshman coming out of nowhere, getting a ton of snaps here on the offensive end for the Wolverines. The true freshman wide out. Only 2 catches, 18 yards, but there were some big catches there, especially in that last drive to get those 3 points for the Wolverines. Just not anything too crazy about Frederick Moore coming out of high school, 6'1", 180 pounds. But my goodness, I mean, I don't think a lot of people expected him to get this sort of playing time. But, I definitely agree with, the stars that you said. Keon Sabb, of course, was a priority for these Wolverines. Coming out of high school, was a 4-star recruit back in 2021. The 6'1", 208-pound sophomore from Glassboro, New Jersey, and he's just made his name known today. You got to expect that, he's going to step into a little bit of a bigger role. You mentioned it earlier, Makari Page and Rod Moore, they're staple points of this defense.
They're not going anywhere.
They're definitely not. And Rod Moore, by the way, that guy is possibly the best safety in the country. In addition to Will Johnson, who you also mentioned is not playing today, possibly, he's in the argument at least for one of the best corners in the country. Michigan missing both of them, but man, oh man, they did not miss a beat today. Just 113 yards of offense given up to the East Carolina Pirates and just 66 through the air. I mean, you got to be happy with that. Let's go on a little bit of a different note, though. What about the rushing offense for the Wolverines? We've seen them air it out a lot more today than I think we're a little bit used to. 18 passing attempts to the 12 rushing attempts. But J.J. McCarthy, 181 yards. And then the receivers, Roman Wilson, Colston Loveland, were fantastic in the passing game. But how about the rushing game? Blake Corum with 56 yards off of 6 carries. Donovan Edwards hasn't really been able to break anything out yet. Just 5 rushing yards off of 5 attempts.
Yeah, I think that this is honestly going to benefit the running backs in an even bigger way. I think this offers Michigan an opportunity to be really efficient on the ground, and you don't need to necessarily turn around and hand the ball off 45 times in a game because you don't have to, and it should keep the running backs fresher, more healthy in an ideal world. You're not worried about Donovan Edwards getting hurt mid-season, and then you've got to lean on Corum, and that leads to him suffering an injury. Ideally, this passing offense complements the running game where you're keeping these backs fresh. You're getting them touches in the passing game, and you're not running them in up the middle 30, 40 times a game, which absolutely this team wants to be able to do whenever they feel like it, which they can do, but you don't want to have to do that. You want to be able to spread the ball around, force teams to respect the pass, and that opens up the box for these other backs to have some space. And so I think that really the ideal world for Michigan this year is that these two aspects of the offense complement each other and make them both more efficient. And J.J. McCarthy's legs as well. We haven't seen him take off today, but we saw that in the Fiesta Bowl, him really break a couple of big ones, and I would expect to see that in big games. The Wolverines really used McCarthy's legs.
No, and it's a great point. Blake Corum, you mentioned it. There were many times last season where, he was going north of 25 carries, and he had a few games where he was over 30 carries in a game. And, part of that was just because of Donovan Edwards dealing with those injuries. But, man, oh, man, would that just be so helpful to those guys where you can open up the passing game and rely on that a decent amount. Let me ask you another. This is going to be a little bit of a random question. You said J.J. McCarthy, just had me thinking we haven't talked about it yet. How about the visor? New addition to J.J. McCarthy this year in this Michigan team, breaking out the clear visor.
I don't hate it.
Yeah?
I think it'll be interesting to see if he keeps it through the whole season or if it's just kind of like a nice weather type of thing. But, yeah, it's a good look for him. I don't know. He can do whatever he wants. He can wear a pink visor. I don't care as long as he's throwing touchdowns. Somebody I want to ask you about is kind of this linebacker group as a whole, but particularly Junior Colson. I think he was tremendous today in that first half for Michigan. Really all over the place. We said his name a handful of times. This linebacker group, which going into last year, was kind of a question mark. There wasn't a ton of depth. Mike Barrett really stepped up last year. Junior Colson's one of the top linebackers in the country. Barrett's an established. And then Ernest Hausman. Those 3 guys, Michigan has some depth now that they can rotate those guys in and out. I think that could be a really strong group for this team this year.
Kelin, I would definitely agree. It's funny because there's been a lot of talking points this summer of what holes do you pick in this Michigan defense. I just don't think there's that many. And, you can go down the line at every single of the 3 levels on defense and say, well, maybe that is. But then you can counterpoint with, well, they have Chris Jenkins on the defensive line. The linebackers, honestly, there's not really many questions with the linebackers. I was trying to come up with one. But Junior Colson, you're right on. What a great start to his season. 5 tackles in that first half. He had 3 solos and 2 tackles for loss. As a lot of these mock drafts are going to start coming out and Junior Colson is now available to be drafted, or eligible, excuse me, you're going to see a lot of Junior Colson's name coming up. Just his 3rd year in college football, started as a true freshman, and he's just so darn consistent for Jim Harbaugh and this squad. And today you're seeing the exact same thing. And, I mean, you know, they're getting that experience back with Michael Barrett, Ernest Hausman as well, coming out of Nebraska. I mean, started all year long for them as a true freshman. I mean, everywhere you look on this defense, it's just hard to pick holes.
So the one hole I think that gets brought up is cornerback depth, and no Will Johnson today. So we're really seeing these guys out there getting tested. Obviously, Mike Sainer still is the slot corner, the nickel corner. That's set in stone. That's locked in. He's one of the best there is at that position. But the second boundary corner opposite of Will Johnson, obviously Will is the top dog on one side, but for the other side of the field, Josh Wallace has kind of gotten the nod today. We've seen Keyshawn Harris in there a little bit as kind of a safety corner hybrid. He's gotten snaps in both spots. Amorian Walker banged up. He's not out there today. Jaden McBurrows is another guy that we've heard in that cornerback competition. What have you seen with Josh Wallace today? What have your thoughts been on him?
I think he's been good. I mean, it's going to be just so hard to evaluate any of these guys, you know, in these early season matchups. And, you know, it's nice when you're playing a lot lesser competition early in the year just because you don't have to worry too much about the win or loss. You know you're going to likely win these games, but it's a little frustrating at times for coaches because it's hard to get true evaluation. So Josh Wallace today has looked good. In my opinion, he's looked solid, but you know, he had that possible interception, what we thought was an interception, but then what was called an incomplete pass. But it's just, you know, man, it's difficult to say necessarily right now. I mean, only 15 passing attempts into this season, only 8 completions for East Carolina, 8 completions against this Michigan defense. But they look good. I mean, you know, everywhere you look, I think in that secondary, I think they're solid. I would definitely agree. I think the one point about this defense is probably cornerback depth, and specifically that CB2, excuse me. But, I mean, when you got Will Johnson on the other side locking it down, you can possibly bracket guys, you know, when they start playing bigger competition too.
And it all comes back to the main question of once you go up against Ohio State, once the Buckeyes come to town and you have Igbuka and Marvin Harrison, that's really what it all boils down to, is pretty much every other opponent on the schedule you're going to be okay with, even if whoever ends up winning that CB2 job, which Harbaugh has said will kind of linger into the season. They'll figure that out.
So let me ask you with that. You know, I think with this Michigan team, you know, we've talked about trying to pick holes. But if you had to, other than cornerback, and this can be on either offense or defense, where are you going?
Oh, man, that's tough. That's really tough. I think you would have to say pass rush or receiver depth, just because of outside of Roman Wilson and Cornelius Johnson, we haven't seen really much of anyone else. And whoever ends up winning that wide receiver 3 spot, whether it be Frederick Moore, who we've seen getting the snaps in the 2-minute drill here, or Darius Clemens, or potentially Peyton O'Leary, who's not playing today due to injury. Somebody's going to win that wide receiver 3 spot. Tyler Morris, someone that's been here for a little bit now. But we've seen good things from Moore today. I think that's promising. And then also on the other side of that, the pass rush, Jalen Harrell's obviously immensely talented. TJ Guy, Braden McGregor, Josiah Stewart. It was definitely a weaker point for Michigan last year. We just haven't quite seen any of these guys step up and do it yet. But I think there's definitely the talent to do so there. And that's a really great problem to have for Michigan, is that these are the questions you're asking. Basically, can these talented guys step up and execute? And the answer is probably yes. And so that's a good problem to have if you're Michigan.
And the last question I'll give you, Kelin, here before we switch over to our second half crew. You mentioned Ohio State. And you don't have to take this necessarily about Ohio State, but when you look at a lot of the other great teams in this country, Alabama, Georgia, what does Michigan need to do to match up with them? One, it's going to be a 2-part question. And 2, of that group, who do you think is going to have the best season?
Well, I think your question is essentially, what can Michigan do to truly get into that winning a national championship conversation? And I think J.J. McCarthy is where it starts and ends. Is everything else is up to snuff. can J.J. McCarthy be that difference maker for you, that playmaker at quarterback? Not just a guy that can make the right throws, but can he be a playmaker that elevates everybody else? Because Michigan doesn't recruit at the skill positions at the levels of these other programs. Michigan isn't bringing in five-star receivers in a class like an Ohio State is. Michigan's just, that's not the type of program Michigan is, but Michigan has 2 rock-solid running backs, a top offensive line in the country, and very talented playmakers. Not quite that level, but still talented playmakers on the outside. Can McCarthy bring that offense up to that next level? And I think that's really what the question is.
Definitely. And quickly, OSU, Georgia, Alabama, who are you going with of that group? Or who's the best team outside of Michigan in the country?
I think it's tough because all those teams have question marks at quarterback, and you just don't know. I think you've got to go with Georgia just because they've done it and they recruit at such a high level everywhere else. But I think it's interesting. I think Florida State and LSU are 2 teams to look out for as well. That could really jump into that category.
Awesome. Well, we're going to start getting our second half crew in here. Kelin, thank you for the first half. What a great call. Pleasure being with you as always.
Absolutely. I'm excited. We'll be back together in the booth soon.
We definitely will be. And coming in for the second half will be Peter Nasr along with Matthew Levy. Peter, you're going to join us right now. But what a great first half for the Wolverines. 23-0 again is the score here as you're listening to WCBN Sports on YouTube today. We just want to say, as usual, thank you so much to all of our listeners. We really, really appreciate you coming on to the channel on YouTube today, and in other instances to the 88.3 FM radio station. We really appreciate it as Peter's getting ready to come in. Peter, what a great first half for Michigan. 23-0 again is the score. J.J. McCarthy looked fantastic. As I get ready to have Matthew Levy take over for me, let me ask you a quick question. Who was your star of that first half? And it'll be a 2-part question. What are you looking forward to in this second half, where likely we're going to see a lot of substitutes coming in for Michigan?
Yeah, so I'm going to go. I really liked J.J. McCarthy today. I really enjoyed watching. I was going into this game. This was his first season where he had the whole summer. He's the guy. He's the starter. Last year, obviously, him and Cade were doing their thing, mixing things up. We didn't know who was going to start. They were dealing with all that. So this year, for JJ to be, he's the guy. We know he's starting week 1. I want to see how he was going to grow from last year. Last season he ended the season made some mistakes in the bowl against TCU, a couple picks there, and then he was a little. He made some mistakes here and there throughout the year, but he looked really poised in the pocket today. He was going through his reads, going through his progressions, and I really enjoyed seeing that. Excuse me. I really enjoyed seeing JJ really mature. I don't know if we'll see him again this half. I hope we do. I want to see him play a little more. But Neal's second part of the question, looking to the second half, the depth. I want to see the depth play. Just see how Michigan looks. See how Jesse Minter. We'll see if he dials anything up here early in the second half, because it's only a 3-score game. Michigan will start with the ball to start the second half, trying to score here and really start putting the things out of reach. But throughout the summer, we've been hearing about Michigan's non-conference schedule being pretty weak. For Michigan to really put that aside and take care of it, they got to take care of business. They've done that so far, and last year they did that obviously in their 3 non-conference games, which are weak as well. They dominated those 3 games. They played really well today through this first half, and I expect them to finish this half strong. And Matthew, as you join in with me, welcome first of all.
Thank you.
And what was your takeaway from this first half? Obviously, we saw both sides of the ball. J.J. McCarthy was throwing the ball well, had that really nice touchdown to start. Blake Corum had that big touchdown, big run, finished it off with the touchdown. We saw a couple picks as well. So what was your takeaway? What are you looking for as we get going? Just a couple minutes before second half kicks off from Ann Arbor.
I mean, we just saw J.J. McCarthy's stats on the big board, and he was 16 for 18, couple touchdown passes. He has been, I think, light years better than what we've seen. 16 for 18, 181 yards, 2 touchdowns. His completion percentage, 89. His rating, 210. He's played a nearly flawless game, and it's really helped mask what's been an issue so far is that run game hasn't been all that productive and what we're used to seeing. Yes, Corum's got 6 for 56, but it's been those couple long runs. He had the longest run of 37. It's not been clean, right, from that run game, and that's something I would like to see a little bit better in the second half, and you'll see that depth shine through a bit. But the passing game's really been great for Michigan, I'd say, on the offensive side. It really helped in that second quarter. And on the defensive side, they've been really good. I love what I'm seeing from Derek Moore. But going forward in the second half, Alex Finn, even though they have no points, East Carolina quarterback Alex Finn coming in for Mason Garcia at the start of that second quarter, much better. He really controlled the offense. He moved the ball a little bit better. The time of possession number was much better for them. So I'm impressed from what I've seen of East Carolina just limiting the amount of possessions. That's why the score is 23-0 and not 35-0.
So go ahead, finish your point.
Yeah, no. All I'm saying is I think that could be interesting to watch. As for you, Peter, as we get going in the second half, is there a player that you're looking at to be, hey, this guy, I want to see him play. I want to see him catch a couple balls. I want to see him run a couple times. Is there a player that you're looking at?
You know, I'm losing my train of thought here for a specific guy. I wanted to see Payne O'Leary play. He's obviously hurt. He's not.
He's out. Yeah.
He's out today, which is disappointing because our wide receiver depth. We've been talking about it. We're curious to see who's going to step up for Ronnie Bell since he's gone in the NFL. But so yeah, he was the guy I was really looking forward to. He's not going to be. Frederick Moore, the receiver from St. Louis, a freshman. We'll see if he gets in today. I don't remember if he did get in at all.
Yeah, he had a couple catches.
I want to see him a little more because I liked how he played early. I think he could be a nice piece for this group because we want to give J.J. McCarthy a lot of targets because you want to complement the run game. You mentioned it, the running game. Blake Corum had that one long run, but ECU has stuffed a lot of the runs, have kept the yards per carry down pretty well. So being able to complement both sides of the ball. And we'll see how that happens. We'll see Davis Warren. I'm excited to see him play backup. It's important to have a good backup QB, a locker room leader, transfer from Indiana. So I expect him to get reps here. We'll see if he starts the second half or not, or if J.J. McCarthy will get in.
No. I mean, it's interesting because Frederick Moore, you mentioned him. He's a freshman. He was a 3-star recruit this past year. He's a guy that's we've seen his speeds, had a couple catches so far. And the other guy you mentioned, Jack Tuttle, I mean, we're going to see him, the guy from Indiana. He's a fifth-year senior. We're going to see him at some point in the second half. I know that. I'm curious to see if J.J. comes out for probably one or two more drives. Michigan gets the football to start this second half as we're 30 seconds out. But that'll be interesting to see. Another question for you. What is Jim Harbaugh thinking right now as he watches this game? Maybe he's in the crowd. Maybe he's not. Who knows?
Yeah, we heard he might be watching a Suns game, so I don't know. But I think it's obviously weird for him, and the dynamic of him having multiple of his assistant coaches head coaching. I think he did that to give them a nice little boost because he's really hyped up his assistants, saying that they're going to be head coaches one day. So he wants to give them some tape, and I see why he's doing that. But I think Jim's going to be happy with the first half. He's obviously going to be, being the head coach, he's going to be critical of the small details here and there. He's going to be the one to point those out. But I think Jim, overall, you're up 23. You're getting the ball here. You made some plays on both sides of the ball. Just cleaning things up overall and just being more cohesive, more consistent.
So here we go. Michigan, East Carolina, second half about to begin. Michigan up 23-0. They've dominated first downs, 14-5. J.J. McCarthy looking like J.J. McCarthy. 16 of 18, 181 yards, 2 touchdowns. He's been great. Corum leading the way on the ground. 6 carries, 56 yards, led by a couple big runs, but hasn't been too efficient. Donovan Edwards, 5 carries for 5 yards. Kalel Mullings has 1. Roman Wilson really leading the charge on the receiving corps. 5 for 63 and 2 scores. You also have Colston Loveland pitching in with 3 for 43. Cornelius Johnson as well. So let's get this going. Andrew Conrad sends it deep into the back of the end zone for a touchback. And here come the Wolverines offense. Let's see who the quarterback will be. It will be J.J. McCarthy as the starters look to come out for this first drive of the second half.
Yeah, you said JJ's coming out, and I'm glad to see that. Give him reps. Let him get comfortable with the offense this year, obviously, and I want to see him put together a really nice, lengthy drive, finish it with a score, and may relax for the rest of the afternoon. But
so he lines up in a pistol. Barner, the transfer from Indiana, now moves inside. One receiver on the field in I formation. McCarthy hands it. Corum bounces forward. Good run, about a couple for Mr. Blake Corum. Tackle made by Julius Wood.
Yeah, ECU's been limiting him for sure. And one thing that Jim Harbaugh talked about this week and throughout the summer is that he believes he has 10 starters on the offensive line, and he wants to see them all mix match, see who are his guys up front. And I think throughout this game, throughout this non-conference schedule, early in the year, we're going to see mixed and matches of all the linemen to see those best pairings.
Two running backs, or a running back and a fullback in the backfield. McCarthy, play action, rolling out. Wide open is Max Bredesen. He's up inside the 35 and tackled at about the 41-yard line by Julius Wood, but not before a big gain and a Michigan first down.
Yeah, I really like that action. Getting J.J. McCarthy rolling out wide open there for a little throwing out in the flat and let his guys get the yard because we have some good athletes on this team, and that was a nice run after catch there to get the first down.
Two wideouts in the game, Wilson and Johnson. One on each side, couple tight ends in there as well. McCarthy in the eye. Give is to Corum. He'll bounce it out to the left. Corum cutting upfield, makes a move. Blake Corum doing his thing. Got about 8 up to the 49-yard line, and a nice little run there from number 2.
Yeah, that's a solid run there, making a couple moves, getting 8 yards on that play.
Nice little, yeah, go ahead.
I was saying Blake Corum, last year he was hurt in the Illinois game. He thought he was expecting that game to be his last game in the big house, and for him to get hurt, the way that his season ended, to want to come back here, redeem himself, and go one more year here. And he's putting on a little show here for the fans in his last home opener for the Maize and Blue.
2nd down and 2 from the 49. East Carolina has got 8 guys in the box. Play action, McCarthy back to throw, looks over the middle, got Cornelius Johnson up to the 35-yard line. McCarthy continuing to deal on this drive, and a nice little gain for another first down.
Yeah, Johnson, 4th catch of the day today, and he was wide open again there. They've been getting open, the receivers, especially in the middle of the field. We've noticed that ECU's been in their zones. They've left open some guys up in the middle, and Cornelius Johnson found a little soft spot, made a nice little catch. And Michigan moving down the field here this first series.
From the 35, 1st down and 10. McCarthy in the gun, Corum to his left. Pitch to Corum. Corum's got space. Corum cuts back inside. How about Blake Corum showing off the agility, looking more comfortable as this game goes on after that torn MCL. A nice little gain there for about 3 up to the 32.
Yeah, he looks healthy and he looks comfortable, which is exactly what you want to see coming off of that injury from last year. Because Michigan's going to need him this year. They definitely will need him. And
8 carries, 66 yards, and a touchdown for the star alongside Mr. number 9, J.J. McCarthy. In the gun, Corum to his right. McCarthy back to throw, looks right, got a man. It's Clemens, his first catch of the day, and he's up inside the 30 to about the 28.
You said Darius Clemens, his first catch, the sophomore from Portland, and making a manageable 3rd down here with 3rd and 3 now. So see, Michigan can run the ball here. They can throw the ball. We've seen them oftentimes. They're a gritty team. They're going to pound the rock. We'll see if they do that here.
3rd down and 3. Give is to Corum. Did he get there? He's at the marker. He got to the 25. I think he has enough.
They're going to give it to him.
Yeah, they're moving the chain. So a nice little run from Corum. Automatic, it feels like, when they got in a short yardage situation. That was an issue, of course, in that terrible TCU game when Roman Wilson was called down at the 1 and then Kalel Mullings fumbled the football. But now a little bit more comfortability when you got number 2 in there in the goal line situations and short 3rd down situations. And now Edwards checks in. A couple tight ends in there on the right, 2 wide receivers to the left, and McCarthy in the shotgun. McCarthy back to throw. Looks, end zone, Barner, broken up. He was open for a second, but a nice breakup right there. That was a very impressive play from Jack Powers in coverage.
That was a great play by Powers, sticking one single paw out, almost a sensational interception, but does enough to break the play up.
Almost an insane interception.
Almost.
I mean, that was a good throw. It appeared to be a wide open
Great
man
recovery there.
for Michigan, but to no avail. McCarthy gives to Edwards. Edwards cuts upfield. Donovan Edwards inside the 15 to the 14. Another Michigan first down. We've got a flag on the field, though, so let's check that. But a nice little play, little pitch to number 7.
As we wait for the flag to be called, I want to see Donovan Edwards get a little more. He didn't have a great stat line in the first half. He was 5 carries for 5 yards. So I want to see him get going a little more. We'll see if this play holds up, though.
So that play will stand as Donovan Edwards and Blake Corum both being featured on this drive. Michigan's been good in the red zone, 3 for 3, 3 touchdowns. That was something that was a bit of a concern last season. They were not as effective in the red zone. So far, so good, albeit against East Carolina, but something to watch. Those little cues as you're watching as a Michigan fan. What can I watch for that's going to translate? That's one of them. Red zone, so far, so good. First down and 10 from the 14. In the pistol is McCarthy. Edwards behind him. Give it to Donovan Edwards. Edwards cuts upfield and just gets back to the line to gain. Nice penetration there from the Pirates.
Yeah, I really like that point you made about the red zone. Michigan, oftentimes last year, they were forced to settle for field goals. They drove well between the 20s, but once they got in the red zone, they oftentimes had to kick for 3. Didn't cost them much, but you really need to capitalize when you get late in the season, when you face your Ohio States, when you're in Happy Valley, in the college football playoff. You got to convert. Michigan's done that so far today, and we'll see how that goes as we move forward.
Second down and 11 from the 15. McCarthy back to throw. He'll roll out right. Got a man. Wilson just low. Just missed him was McCarthy. Had a roll right. Good pressure there by East Carolina. That was J.D. Lampley in the backfield. Forced McCarthy to roll out to his right. Trying to find Wilson, but just low. And a pretty tight window to fit in.
Yeah, tight window. Tough throw. Running, getting chased by multiple Pirates. For the most part, Michigan has handled the pressure. They haven't given up too much pressure. McCarthy's had time to settle in the pocket, and when he's wanted to scramble, he's been able to do that pretty effectively. But now he has a big 3rd and long here.
3rd and long, 3rd and 11 from the 15. They motion in Johnson. Back to throws McCarthy. McCarthy's got time. Looks, end zone. Wilson! Touchdown! Roman Wilson. What a throw from J.J. McCarthy. He fit it right in there in the back corner. Roman Wilson, what a catch. And Michigan rolling now up 29-0. What a throw, Peter.
That was a beautiful throw, and going to the corner, J.J. McCarthy threading the needle there. We said it to start the half. He's been really sharp today. Sharp there on that play, and in what might be his last throw of the day, that would be a really good one to end his afternoon.
And the place kicker, Mr. Turner, puts it through after missing one earlier. He had that big kick at the end of the first half. Jimmy Turner coming in from Louisville. There were some questions. He missed that extra point earlier, but he made that 49-yard field goal to end the half. He makes that extra point. Now we're well on the way. Michigan 30, East Carolina 0, Peter, and you got to be impressed. You wanted that long, lengthy drive. You got it from the Wolverines.
Yeah, taking up almost 6 minutes of that third quarter, and that's really what you want to see. Michigan able to, with both the pass and the run, they were able to move down the field. Some good chunk plays. They were consistent in that drive. That's a textbook drive for the Wolverines, and we'll see if that will be it for JJ and Corum. I hope we see Edwards a little more. I want to see him break through a little bit because we know he can, fully healthy as well this year. But you mentioned the kicking. There's a fan poll done by our local 4 here, and they asked Michigan fans, who are we going to miss most this year? And they said Jake Moody was a player that they're going to miss most. So Michigan fans, we've been used to having, Jake Moody for a few years. He's just automatic, the leading scorer in Michigan history. Brad Robbins, who's here today, we saw him pregame, but losing those special teams. Special teams come up big once you get late in the season, the close games. So obviously early in the year, he missed an extra point, but he kicked a career-long field goal, 50 yards, and that'll be something that I'm interested to see as we move forward, not only in this game, but throughout the early portion of the season, how the special teams look. for the Wolverines, because that is the third phase. Jim Harbaugh always mentions the 3 phases, and that's an equally important phase of the game to watch out for, and we'll see how that goes as the season progresses.
And the other thing to watch out for, Peter, as you mentioned special teams, is actually the way the punter for East Carolina has approached this, Archer Trafford. Very low, a lot of low kicks, and that is tough for a punt returner. Jacob Thaw, first year as a punt returner for the Wolverines, he kind of struggled. Do I let this go? Do I catch this ball? And he kind of adjusted pretty well. I'm sure Jim, whether he watches this game live or on replay, is going to look at those plays, look at those punts, and say this is a good test for us because we're probably not going to see this in Big Ten play, but if those situations arise as the season goes forward, we've kind of dealt with them now. And I thought that was very interesting to see.
Yeah, we saw on the first punt, he let it go, and it rolled all the way to the 3-yard line. Michigan was forced to back deep in their own territory, forced to just run the ball 3 times. They couldn't get anything, and they were down in the field position game early. They got the pick to compensate for it. But you're right. I'm interested to see that. We'll see if Michigan can force some more punts here as they get ready to kick things off and play a little defense.
As J.J. McCarthy, headset on, feeling calm, cool, and collective, 22 for 26, 244 yards and 3 touchdowns. As Jimmy Turner will send it away. It'll be fair caught by the Pirates. That was Javius Bond who had that nice little catch and turn in that first half. And ever since the switch from Mason Garcia to Alex Flynn, even though the score is 30-0, if there's something East Carolina can ride into American Athletic Conference play, it could be that quarterback change.
Yeah, definitely, because we were going in. They did not announce the quarterback starting going into the game. We saw Mason Garcia, as you said, who everyone expected to be the starter. He struggled a little bit, but Alex Flynn is really he's looked good. He made a couple. He's made some good throws, quality throws, and I'm excited to watch him, as you said.
So here's a little trick play right out of the gate, and a good hit from Josiah Stewart. They try to get the football to their playmaker, Jari Patterson. He tried a little reverse, and it did not work. Really good job from the transfer from Coastal Carolina in there to make the stop, loss of 1.
Yeah, he played against this ECU team last year in the bowl game, which they lost, but he let out some little revenge there with a big hit.
2nd down and 11 from the 24. And there's a whistle. Let's check this out. Looks like they are resetting the play. Yep, they're just resetting the clock. 8:38 to go here in this third quarter. Michigan up 30-0. Here's the give to Harris. Harris breaks off a tackle, and then Brady McGregor and company lock him up. It was about a 2-yard gain, and it'll bring up a 3rd down and 8 from the 27.
For the most part, Michigan's tackled well. We saw it there, that their game tackling. Besides the one rush that ECU had in the first half, they've tackled well, which is important to see early. Fundamentals, and Brady McGregor there, who I'm really excited to see this year out on the edge.
So 3rd down and 8 from the 27. Fans erupt. In the shotgun is Flynn. Harris to his left. Flynn back to throw. Got some time. Flynn off the back foot. Got him at no. It was dropped by Jalen Johnson. Throw was pretty good in the zone coverage. Just dropped. And East Carolina will be forced to punt.
Yeah, Flynn had some time to throw that ball, and he had a guy. If you look at the replay here.
Yeah, it was just a little low.
Just a little short.
Just a little low. Sandra still was in coverage. It was more of a zone coverage. And we've seen a lot of zone today from Michigan. 4th and 8 from the 27. On is Archer Trafford to punt it away. And before that, much higher kick in the practice, but we got to practice. We have a timeout from the Wolverines. It'll be there first. So on that drive, we didn't get to see, Peter, the corners get some reps. But I will say, coming into this game, the one thing that we were unsure of is how is that defensive backfield going to hold up? There were a couple injuries. Will Johnson, Rod Moore not in action as the game has unfolded. Have you seen anything that's impressed you from either Josh Wallace or another player like Keon Sapp?
Keon Sapp has been really good today. I really like how he's been flying across the field, and overall, defensively, I think Michigan's done really well. They've been opportunistic. They've had the pick up in the middle, then close pick, but it's still showing that Michigan's getting there. They've been in coverage well, haven't given up too many big plays. Overall, I think that defensively, obviously, it's a different caliber opponent, ECU versus the top of the Big Ten, which we'll face later in the year, but it's still a good look early on.
Punt is away, a much higher kick. Thaw will return. He'll make one man miss. He'll run to the right side here. Thaw cuts it back towards the middle of the field, trying to make something happen, and he gets to about the 32, where the offense, J.J. McCarthy, looks to be coming out once again for another series as Michigan leads 30-0. We've got a flag on the field as the refs discuss. We'll wait on that. Surprising here that J.J. might be coming out again.
You know, maybe it's just Jesse Minter wants to really, we'll see the whole offensive holding on Michigan, so this will.
That is the first Michigan penalty, believe it or not.
So that will be enforced from the dead ball spot.
The first penalty for the Wolverines. A pretty clean game considering you don't have your head coach and your offensive line and offensive coordinator.
Yeah, exactly, which is important. As they're announcing the Slippery Rock. They don't play yet, but Slippery Rock, fan favorites out here in the big house. And it's been a good atmosphere out here in this first game. The Maze out. We talk about just being back in Ann Arbor, being back in Michigan Stadium. It feels right to be back here. It feels good.
Yeah, it does. And the crowd's kind of fizzled out a bit as your tailgaters who had a fun morning have fizzled out. But look, it's good to be back, obviously, against a much lesser opponent like East Carolina. What are you going to take away? That's the real question if you're a Michigan fan. What are some signs that, hey, we're going to be right where we were last year in the thick of things in the college football playoff? I think one is that your quarterback has really improved.
Yeah. J.J.
McCarthy had a rough TCU game. He made some plays, but he also had those mistakes. So far, so good. He's been pretty clean, 22 of 26. And the receivers are getting open. Roman Wilson seems to be open on every play. I'm more curious to see if we can get some of those younger players some action. Like we've seen a little bit. We've seen Frederick Moore making a couple catches. Darius Clemens had one as well. But do you want to see more of that? That'll be interesting to see if we have one more drive with Mr. McCarthy. And if we don't, it'll be interesting to see who comes in. Is it Jack Tuttle? Is it Davis Warren? Is it Alex Orji, who has athleticism? And Jim Harbaugh has raved about all three, especially Mr. Orji. So is there a quarterback that you're looking to see as we head into the second half?
I mentioned
Jack Tuttle.
Yeah, I mentioned him earlier. I'm excited to see him. Just the Indiana transfer, Alex Orji. He's a fan favorite as well, and he's looked good when he's gotten in. His athleticism, you said. So having like a similar style to J.J. McCarthy at quarterback. But I do expect we'll see. I don't expect J.J. McCarthy to finish this quarter. This might be his last drive, especially if he puts another good drive together. And
the other thing that's interesting, the offensive line, you mentioned it earlier. Jim Harbaugh thinks he has 10 starters. There's only been 5. I mean, Trente Jones has come in as that swing tackle, but we haven't seen a lot of linemen kind of rotate. Unlike last year where there was a lot of rotation, we saw Carson Barnhart come in and out of games, Trevor Keegan in and out. So far it's been the same 5. It's been Zinter, it's been Keegan, it's been Barnhart, it's been Nugent the transfer, and Hinton the transfer. So it's been 3 new guys and 2 old. Or three old guys, 2 new, on that one. But so far they've stuck with the same 5, rotating in a 6th. That'll be something to watch as the second half progresses. So J.J. McCarthy, first down and 10 from the 18. He's in the pistol. Now he'll move to an I. Barner motions over to the right side. 2 wide receivers in, along with 2 tight ends. The give is to Corum. He's got space. Blake Corum trying to bounce it outside. Shoves off a tackler, and he's up to about the 22-yard line. Gain of 4 on that play.
Yeah, it was a good job by ECU's defense. Corum was looking to get outside, and he was very close to breaking free, but it was a good job there using that defensive speed to get out there.
McCarthy in the gun, Corum to his left. It's a bunch, 3 receivers on the left. On the right is Barner. They'll motion over Edwards as that 3rd receiver. McCarthy changing the call at the line. 8 seconds on the on the clock. McCarthy back to throw, looks short, got Edwards. He's got a first, out of bounds at the 29, pushed out of bounds by Shavin Revel. So Michigan moves the chains.
Yeah, seeing Donovan Edwards active in the passing game, which we expect with the way that he plays to utilize him on both sides. There he was lined up out wide. We've seen him obviously coming out of the backfield a lot. So that's been exciting to see. And what is he at? 4 catches, 33 yards. So he's done well receiving so far today.
Michigan back in 12 personnel. 1 running back, 2 tight ends, 2 receivers. McCarthy working from the gun, gives it to Edwards. Edwards pushing upfield. He falls forward to about the 34-yard line. Gain of about 5 on that one.
Yeah, that's a good first run, getting ahead of the chains there on first down. And that's all you need at this point in the game. Just stay ahead of the chains, stay ahead of the sticks.
But I'm still impressed the way East Carolina has kind of held up in that run game. They've devoted a lot of resources, albeit, but they've been pretty good in stopping the run. Michigan's broke through a couple times, but nothing crazy. They haven't been as efficient as we are used to. So 2nd down and 5, play action. McCarthy feels the pressure. He'll roll out. Got a wide open Colston Loveland up to the 48-yard line. No one in the vicinity. And McCarthy puts it on a rope. First down, Wolverines.
We've been raving about how we've really liked what JJ's done today, and that's another example. Feeling the pressure, escaping the pressure, and throwing a dot on the run to Colston Loveland, who I'm really excited to see over a full season. I think he's going to be a really good tight end, one of the best tight ends in the Big Ten, and he's played well so far today. He's got 4 catches, there were 57 yards.
He's been active. Michigan loves using those tight ends. Miles Hinton missed that assignment right there. As Edwards gets the carry, he'll bounce it outside, up inside the 50, up inside the 40, and out of bounds at about the 38. He walked out there, and Donovan Edwards. You wanted him to get going, Peter. He's starting to churn a little bit.
Yeah, that's really what you want to see. Great job. He cuts it outside, read the blockers, and just used his raw talent, his speed to get out there. For the first down, Michigan's marching once again.
So Johnson, Loveland, Wilson all stay in. McCarthy now in the pistol, Quorum right behind him. Trente Jones on that left side acting as a tight end or a swing tackle. McCarthy back to throw, looking to go deep. He feels the pressure, flips it out to Quorum. Quorum trying to make a move, but a good job there by the defense of East Carolina. A bunch of tacklers, but led by Jack Powers, who's been flying all over the field.
Yeah, ECU they haven't gotten tons of pressure earlier in the game, but they've been getting by a couple times here, forcing Jay to do a little flip action, but good awareness by McCarthy, knowing that he's got Quorum as his outlet, as his go-to guy if he needs to, and he does that there with a little flip. They do get no gain, but he avoids the sack.
One thing that's interesting, Miles Hinton, another missed block, and if they're going to rotate that at any point, that'll be something to watch as Quorum bounces it out. Got to about the 34, flag on the play, and where that flag is thrown, that's most likely on the Wolverines. Let's check that out. So that'll go against, it's a holding against Drake Nugent, the transfer.
You don't see too many holds called on the center, but you expect to see more snapping the ball and then getting a block right away. And the second penalty on the Wolverines today will bring them back 10 and force a second and long here.
So 2nd down and 20 when we resume. 4 receivers now on the field for the Wolverines. 2 on each side. McCarthy in the gun. They'll motion in Barner. McCarthy waits. From the 48 of East Carolina, now he'll change the play. Edwards in the backfield as well. McCarthy back to throw. He's got plenty of time. McCarthy now evades the rush. McCarthy looking, got nothing. Now looks down the field and just too far, but there's a flag. I think it was a late hit against East Carolina. It looked to be J.D. Lampley in there a little too late. Probably hit him out of bounds, and that will probably move the chains for the Wolverines. Let's check it out.
Yeah, they're discussing it, but it looked like it was a little bang, but it was a big hit on McCarthy down on the sideline. We'll see if they We'll hear the call from the official, Greg Sujak. They're going to call targeting as well.
So we're probably going to get a review. We'll get a review.
So I'll bring it to a timeout. I do want to see this replay as we review the targeting.
Let's show it on the new scoreboard for the Wolverines.
Beautiful scoreboard.
Both sides of the stadium, revamped, easy to look at, clean.
Let's take a look.
New speakers, let's see it. McCarthy rolling out to his right as Barnhart got beat. Yeah, and that was a little bit of a late hit. It was actually.
Now remember, for targeting, as you guys look at.
It was Jack Powers in there. That, to me, looks like head-to-head.
I think so, and leading with the head is also a big thing. And it looks like he led with his head. So I would not be surprised if his date is done and if he's going to miss the first half of their game next week against the Fighting Herd of Marshall. But obviously the Michigan fans are not happy seeing that.
Never want to jeopardize your star quarterback, and
especially
at
the point in the game.
Yeah, exactly. And if Jesse Minter must be wondering at this point, 3:02 to go to the third, your team's up 30-0. When's the time to take him out? And get some other guys some opportunities, because you don't want your quarterback getting hurt in the second half of week one when you're already blowing out a team.
Yeah,
that is something you got to watch.
Yeah, you want to see your backups play, but just to get them reps. You don't want them to be. You need J.J. McCarthy healthy to get your aspirations as we hear the call.
So it's confirmed. So Michigan will get the first down from the 33, and they'll move those chains.
Yeah, I think that's the right call.
So
especially on the quarterback. Can't be going in with the head like that, jumping up to.
So Jack Powers, he's been pretty good today. He is now done for the day. So major loss for East Carolina as the Wolverine offense will trot back onto the field. McCarthy will start in the eye, or in the shotgun, excuse me. Edwards to his left, 2 receivers on the left, 2 tight ends on the right. McCarthy looks to the sideline as the Bleep Ohio chants begin. McCarthy looks wide open as Cornelius Johnson. He's got a first down inside the 20 and runs out of bounds at about the 18. So Michigan continuing to move it. Wide open players across the field.
Yeah, he had a lot of real estate to himself, and you mentioned the Michigan fans they're always keen on letting the world know how they feel about that school down in Ohio.
Wolverines continue to move the ball at ease as they're helped out by that targeting call against Jack Powers. So they have 1st and 10 from the 18. In the shotgun is McCarthy. Edwards to his right. 2 wide receivers on the right, none on the left. 2 tight ends also in there, Bredesen and Barner. And now we've got a flag. It's probably a false start.
Probably a little movement up front. We'll see who that's going to be on.
The one concern I have, Peter, and I'm curious to get your take on this, as the false start is called, on A.J. Barner, is the offensive line just, it's not as clean as we're used to seeing, and maybe that's with the addition of some of these transfers, but especially Miles Hinton, not as clean of a game as you would like against East Carolina.
Yeah, and you always say, like, offensive line is the one position that you need the 5 guys together to be together, that it's a unit. And with Jim Harbaugh saying you have 10 starters, we'll let the play go, and then I'll finish my thought.
So first down and 15 from the 23. 2:04 to go in this third quarter. Give this to Edwards. He's got loads of space as Donovan Edwards inside the 13. Another late hit, yeah. Edwards got pushed out of bounds and looked like Julius Wood, and he hit him late. Their star player on this defense led the team in tackles last season. That was late.
Yeah, let's look at this replay here, but good job by Edwards getting outside, and yeah, that you can't throw it once you're out of bounds. Clearly out of bounds. You gotta. They'll call it officially, so we have to, since it's a goal, and give Michigan the first down.
So they actually called it on Eric Doctor Jr. I thought that was on Julius Wood. Donovan Edwards starting to pick up his game just a bit. He's up to 33 yards rushing and 33 yards receiving. So 66 in total. Corum, 3 catches, 5 yards, and 10 for 73. Give is to Edwards. He'll push forward to about the 2. Tackled by a host of East Carolina defenders. Maybe the 3, so it'll be about 2nd down and 3. As big number 53, Trente Jones, comes into the game.
Yeah, pound the rock. That's the Michigan's bread and butter, especially down here in this territory from the 2-yard line. Fully expect to run. We'll see if Jesse Minter throws something special at us here on the 2nd down, though.
Sometimes you got to stick to the bread and butter. I don't expect him to throw, but here we go. 2nd down and 2. Give is to Edwards. He'll push forward, but tackled again. So there's certainly a physicality to this East Carolina Pirate team. They hold up Mike Edwards along with a couple others in there for the stop. So it'll be a 3rd down and 2 from the 2.
Michigan going quick here.
Give Edwards into the end zone. Touchdown, but we got a flag. Let's check the flag, but for right now, Michigan is into the end zone. Donovan Edwards. And it looks to be against East Carolina. So Donovan Edwards trots into the end zone on the right side. Penalty is declined on the offside, and Michigan now rolling. It's 36-0 here at the end of the 3rd quarter.
Yeah, as you expect, as you said, pound the rock, bread and butter, and Michigan doing a good job here. Another long drive. I expect that to be it for the starters, but Michigan's done a really good job controlling the clock in this quarter. Under 2 series, as ECU's only had the ball once, and they, for barely in time, Michigan, it's already the end of the 3rd quarter here. So Michigan, that's really important, especially when you get later in the season. You get teams that have some prolific offenses, keeping them off the field through nice long series like you saw here on this drive and the previous one. Exactly. And they're going to go look at the touchdown, so we'll see. These ones are tough to overturn just because it's hard to get a good angle when you're fighting through all the bodies in the middle of the field.
Yeah, they're not showing the replay on the revamped scoreboard. Apologies to James Turner. I've been calling him Jimmy Turner. That is my bad. 36-0 is the score. Michigan, another great drive from JJ. His numbers now are really looking good. 26 of 30, 280 yards, 3 touchdowns, 198 rating.
He's done everything you wanted him to do today. And we haven't seen him in the run game. I don't think he doesn't have a single rush today, but we didn't. The Wolverines haven't needed him to, as they're showing the replay now.
So, yeah, that replay looks, maybe he's just an inch short, but it's very close. The last close call, they actually had it stand. But we will see. And looking across college football, because it's the first week and it's always fun as we wait for a ruling.
It looks like they're getting ready to rule it.
And we'll wait for the ruling, and then I'll get into that later. So now decision time for the Wolverines. It'll be a 4th down and inches.
Go for it. I think Michigan will go for it. We saw it last year against TCU. It backfired. But I think your bread and butter in this situation is to...
It's interesting where they're going to spot this ball. It's actually at the 1. I thought it was a little bit closer than that. They're not going to give Michigan the benefit of the doubt there. But you could probably rush the ball up the middle. It's actually a 3rd down and 1.
Oh, you're right, yeah.
I thought it was 4th, but they have 3rd on the board. The give. Edwards jumps. Did he get in? I don't know. I think he got stuffed.
Tried to hurdle over the line.
And McCarthy wants everyone to get up. He's trying to rush to the line as it is 4th down and about an inch. As Edwards jumped, he didn't get the...
Yeah, he's short.
Yeah, he didn't get the ball out. Late. Michigan trying to rush up to the line. 4th and 1 from the 1. Give us to Edwards. No, he didn't get in.
They fumbled the snap, it looks like, and...
So there was a fumble on the exchange between McCarthy and Edwards. I think McCarthy wanted to keep it. So that'll be a turnover on downs. What a disaster
Wow.
right there for the Wolverines, trying to punch it in, and they could not do it. Wow.
Yeah, we were praising this offense. That was the first mistake, though. So, like, they have played a clean game, but that's a costly mistake. We saw it last year, the 4th down stop in the Fiesta Bowl. Happened again there. And the fact that he wasn't stuffed, but it was on the exchange, trying to rush it a little bit there. I think J.J. McCarthy wanted to really rush it.
It's not a bad idea. I just thought the offensive line has got to get a push on one of those couple plays right there. That is surprising that they couldn't get the ball in against a team that you should be dominating up front. That was impressive from East Carolina. They've stood up to the test.
Yeah, we got to give them props. We got to give them credit. They held up twice, 3 times there on the goal line, and they do have a long field, but can they rally behind that to get some momentum for themselves? You know, like last year they were 4-4 in the AAC, but they won their bowl. They've been dancing. They've been getting bowl games the past 2 years. They did not play their first one. They got canceled due to COVID things. But then they got a big win against Coastal Carolina in the Birmingham Bowl last year. So for ECU, I think this is a tough first game for you for the season. You got Marshall next week. You have App State coming up on the schedule before you start. Sorry, I got distracted by the student on the field who just nailed that kick.
Yeah, but that's something that if there's a couple things Jim Harbaugh is going to address, that is definitely going to be a play that's going to be addressed because that is inexcusable when you're 3rd and inches to not put the ball in, 2nd and inches even. That is something that, and you didn't have Blake Corum in there, and usually he's probably in that role.
Yep.
But Donovan Edwards is all more than capable of getting in. The fact that they didn't get any push is surprising because you had one of the best running block centers last year in Olu with Timmy.
Yeah.
He's gone.
Yeah, losing him hurts.
And that's an adjustment. You still got those guards, but that's an adjustment. Also on the right side, Miles Hinton coming in. There's an adjustment on this offensive line. We've kind of penciled them in because of the amount of depth and the amount of talent there, but they got to come together as a unit a little bit more. That is something I'm sure Sharon Moore, Jim Harbaugh not being here, they're going to challenge him in practice this week is, hey, we got to step up. We got to step up a little bit more. But besides that, it's been clean, dominating time of possession, 28-16.
Especially in this half.
This half, yeah. But it's just, that is not, can't do that against the big boys. And that is, again, it's the first game of the season. You always have room to improve. But that is something, if you're a Michigan fan, if you're trying to poke holes in this
and Michigan fans love doing that. They love.
In this 30-0 game, it's that.
But you're at the point as a program that you can do that. Your goals are much higher now as we get ready to roll.
All right, here we go. So East Carolina will be backed up on their own 3. Finn back to throw. Looks, it's actually Mason Garcia back in the game. And, yeah, that's going to be an OPI.
Yeah.
It was a really nice ball from Mason Garcia who checked back in as Alex Flynn heads to the sideline. So another quarterback change back to the starter. But that throw was on the money to his target, Jarrett Garner. But a push-off on Mike Sanders still is going to push him back even more to about the 1.5-yard line.
Yeah, that was pretty easy to see, especially from our angle here.
Yeah, really nice throw. It was just a push-off
Really
from
good
Garner.
coverage. Sanderson's looked really good today.
He has, and the question was the defensive backs on this team with no Will Johnson. Who's going to step up? Sanderson's been targeted. He's held up his end of the bargain. So first down and 11 from the 2 for East Carolina. Third quarter about to end. Let's see if we can get a playoff. 5 seconds to go. Give is to Harris, and he gets to about the 2, and that'll end the third quarter. So Michigan, 30, East Carolina 0 through 3 quarters. It's been fun. Michigan controlling a little bit, a couple of mistakes with that last drive with the offensive line, but so far J.J. McCarthy and the offense looking pretty good. Could poke holes, of course, but we're going to take the positive side as Michigan leads 30-0. And Peter, I'll send this to you for a couple seconds. we've seen college football now Thursday, Friday. Of course, last week was week 0, and now you've had Colorado and TCU go at it, which has been fun, and Colorado's held their ground. Is there any early season takeaways as we're not even halfway through Saturday of week 1?
I remember I was watching Notre Dame's week 0 game against Navy in Dublin. Always fun seeing those games out across the pond. Notre Dame looks really good. I'm excited to see when they go up against Ohio State. That's going to be a fun matchup in South Bend. Also, Michigan State, I was watching that game a little bit yesterday. They started out real slow against Central Michigan. Central Michigan played well early. They were able to get out and get the win here. For the games today, you mentioned Colorado. They're up 24-21 halfway through the third at TCU. So that's a really exciting. That's a really Colorado, the Deion Sanders. They just have so much hype around them. It's really good seeing that Colorado program. When they were up in the 90s, when they were winning national championships, it's a good thing when Colorado is succeeding. So that I'm really excited to see how they go moving forward, and if they could hold on to beat TCU. Looking at some other scores for the Big Ten teams in action, Purdue up 3 against Fresno State, and Iowa 17-6 lead over Utah State.
17-6.
17-6, correct. My apologies there. But yeah, those are the only 2 Big Ten teams other than Michigan playing right now. Ohio State faces Indiana tonight. And Matthew, who do you think we're looking ahead? We'll do a little looking ahead here. Michigan's schedule. Is there any game other than Ohio State and Penn State that you've kind of got marked down as like this could be a good test for the Wolverines if Mr. Brightside starts playing?
So I think there's 2. I would start a 2-week stretch here. I think the second game of this 2-week stretch is interesting because you have Nebraska and Minnesota back-to-back on the road. Nebraska and Minnesota faced off this week on Thursday.
Yep.
Very good game,
Right,
very close, tight. Both teams have very good defenses in a road environment. That's the first check, right? Let's see them win on the road. Should be okay. But the real test, I think, is between Penn State and Ohio State. You get Maryland. Maryland's going to be a good team this year. You got younger Tua, I like to call him, Talila Tagovailoa. He is a very good player. They tested Michigan last year. It was a 1-score game down the stretch.
Year 2.
In week 4 here. That'll be a game that we look at. And if Michigan somehow beat Penn State and they were undefeated or 1 loss and you had to close out the final 2, that's the game that you circle as a trap. And because Maryland's going to wake up. They're at home. They're going to be ready to go. They played Michigan and Ohio State really well. So that'll be the game to look forward to if I'm thinking of one.
Yeah, I really like that pick. It's always, if Michigan is at the point in the season where we expect them to be, being undefeated, going into Ohio State, that game's always tough because you're focusing, you're thinking about your bitter rival, but then you have to play the game out in front of you. So that game is, I'm definitely looking forward to that one. And also, you mentioned it, the Nebraska Minnesota back-to-back road games. It's never easy winning in Lincoln and then going to Minnesota. Those are going to be tough ones as well. Those will be good tests for the Wolverines.
So it'll be 2nd and 10 from the 3 for Mason Garcia. Garcia back to throw. He's got time, looking deep, looking on the left side for Jalen Johnson, and he makes the catch. No, they're calling it incomplete. I thought he got a foot down as Jalen Johnson. Good throw from Mason Garcia. He's had a couple good balls since entering the game. Keyshawn Harris in coverage, but it was ruled incomplete. It was close, but a good throw.
That was almost a really good catch, and you're right. That was a really good throw. Putting it where only your guy can get it. It's either going to be incomplete or it's going to be your guy. You're not going to throw a pick. That's a really good throw.
3rd down and 10. In the gun is Garcia. To the right is Harris. 3 receivers for the Pirates, and that's going to be a timeout. Crowd got into it, and they forced the timeout as Derek Moore, Kenneth Grant and company, that vaunted defensive line, stepping up as J.J. McCarthy goes and greets him on the sideline. 3rd down and 10 when we resume play. And going back to that conversation earlier about the Big Ten and Michigan's schedule and how they're going to fare, you know that it's going to be a 3-headed race. Ohio State, Michigan, and Penn State, or at least that's what's expected. As you look at the West, because Iowa's in action right now, they're one of the favorites. it feels like a two-headed race between Iowa and Wisconsin. Is there another team that could sneak in there, or how do you see it?
I was thinking Minnesota coming into the year. They didn't play amazing on Thursday, but they got the win. They were able to come back and win. But Iowa with Cade McNamara, and that's always for Michigan fans knowing him well and what he brings to the table. They're up against Utah State, as we mentioned. But yeah, I think it's those teams that we'll be looking to see out of the West. Maybe Illinois.
All right, so 3rd down and 10 from the 3. Crowd's into it. 14:51 to go in this 4th quarter. Back to throw is Garcia. Looks, he's got pressure in his face. And look at Kenneth Grant, Josiah Stewart, Derek Moore creating havoc all day long, as that'll force a punt for the Wolverines, or for the Pirates, excuse me.
Michigan's yet to have a sack today, but they've gotten some pressure, and they did there, and we'll see how they fare with the deep punt. You don't get the full range that you hope for, so can Michigan try and block it?
Punt is away to low one, as there's a new returner back there. And a little nice move. What a move. Showing off his speed is the young freshman. Give me 1 second. That was Carmelo English coming in there. He returned punts for the first time. It's been Jacob Thaw all day. As Carmelo English, the freshman 4-star, number 50th in the class coming into this year, made a couple moves, got it inside East Carolina territory to the 38, and here comes the new quarterback for the Wolverines. It'll be Davis Warren, the junior from Los Angeles. He had 65 yards in total last year. Kalel Mullings is in as well. So Michigan rotating some pieces. Tyler Morris in the game as well. Here's the give to Mullings. Mullings cuts, and he's up to about 35, gain of about a couple. Tackle made by Julius Wood and BJ Davis. Barner enters. Bredesen as well. So it'll be Mullings and Warren. You have a couple new offensive linemen, Ladarius Henderson in there as well. In the gun, they motion over Bredesen. Flag on the play as Warren was looking for Barner, and let's see, whistle. Probably on Michigan. So a little bit of a sloppier second half compared to the first. They had 0 penalties in that first half.
Yeah, those are the kind of penalties you'll tend to see, especially early in the year. Didn't get everyone set prior to the snap there.
So it's Henderson, El Hadi on the left. You have Trente Jones along with Reese Atterbury on the right. In the middle, it's Greg Crippen. 2nd down and 13 from the 41. Warren back to throw, looks right. Broken up. Good defense right there. The pass was intended for Max Bredesen as B.J. Davis was in coverage.
That was some good coverage by Davis there. Really smothering, and now Michigan's forced to deal with a 3rd and long.
Yeah, really good pass breakup. So now it'll be a 3rd down and 13. Could be another test for James Turner, who made a 49-yard field goal earlier in the game, the only attempt. But he did miss an extra point. That's why it's 30 and not 31. The run is to Mullings. Mullings pushing forward, carrying tacklers. Look at Kalel Mullings pushing inside the 30 to the 29. The crowd loves that. And now I think you go for it, because now it's going to be a 4th and 1 from the 29. Kalel Mullings using the power.
It looks like they are going to go for it.
As I look over to the sideline, Michigan looking like they're going for it. So one receiver in the shotgun is Warren. 2 tight ends on the left. Now Bredesen will motion over to the right. And now we got a whistle, another false start. Just a little early, and a new offensive line some movement.
Now I think we'll see if the field goal unit comes out.
So they're actually switched it. They put Gentry on the right side instead of Atterbury. So now James Turner will get the test. It'll be a 51-yard attempt from the right hash. Little wind as the student section has mostly cleared out. Those fans probably halfway through the section, and then another whistle, and now a timeout. So Jesse Minter will call his second timeout of the second half.
Yeah, obviously, Michigan, you mentioned it a little earlier ago, they've been a little sloppy here in the second half. And these are the things that Harbaugh is going to lament about in his presser on Monday, whether he's watching it, whether he's listening here. If he is, welcome. Hope you've enjoyed our coverage. Or if he's watching elsewhere. But, yeah, these little things here, it's the little things. Like, you had a 4th and 1 going for it. Now it's 4th and 6. You got to kick the field goal. The muff snap on 4th and goal from the 2-yard line, costing you points.
So Michigan will have the ball at the 34. 51-yard attempt incoming.
But I am excited to see. It's good to see these field goal, getting the special teams operating here on this long field goal opportunity.
4th and 6. Let's see if we can get a playoff for the first time. Snap is good. Hold is good. Kick is no good. He just pulled it left. So James Turner, after making the 49, misses the 51. And you mentioned at the poll about who you're going to miss most. It might be Jake Moody because we've seen some struggles today from the new kicker from Louisville.
Yeah, Michigan fans definitely got used to being comfortable with the long field goal. Jake Moody, automatic for most of his career as the attendance getting announced today, which is always exciting to see. 309 consecutive 100-plus thousand fans. Yeah, obviously it's early in the year, and you hope that the consistency from the field goal game improves as we move forward. But
it's pretty good.
Nice attendance there, just short of the 110.
East Carolina's attendance capacity is 55, so it's nearly double the size. Playing in front of this crowd. And look, Michigan's defense has been awesome. They haven't let up a point. But there's certain things, if you're East Carolina, you're feeling good about. You never thought probably you're going to win this game. It's a very tough environment. Talent gaps are there. But if you're looking forward for East Carolina and the American Athletic Conference, they have a nice chance to go dancing in there bowling again after going 8-5 last season. Yes, we're not sure about that quarterback, but the defense has shown some signs. They've stopped the run pretty well. They got to fix up that pass defense a little bit, but they've showed some signs. They brought a physicality to the game, or maybe Michigan wasn't expecting.
Yeah, I agree. We saw that we've seen the up front. We saw on a couple stops late on the goal line there, they got fired up. You're right. The ECU's, they came to play. Mike Houston, we expected the coach to get the team ready. Obviously, they want to get something on the scoreboard, being held scoreless here. But you're right. When you have the uncertainty at quarterback, at least from the media perspective, who knows how they viewed things internally because they just didn't share it. But we've seen both quarterbacks today, Garcia and Flynn, and as the season progresses, we'll see for ECU if they lean towards one way or the other, who's going to step up. Because both of them have made some good plays here. They've also both made some mistakes.
So East Carolina will begin possession from their own 34 as they trail 30-0. Planes fly over on the big screen. So it will still be Mason Garcia, again with the running back Rajay Harris. Garcia will keep it, big frame, and he'll churn forward for about 5 up to the 39-yard line.
And Garcia with the big frame, but he does get out in the pocket. He can use his legs as we saw there, and that's a positive run for ECU to get half of what you need there on first down.
6'5", 249 pounds from Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. It's the sophomore. Again, a lot of turnover from this East Carolina team from a year ago that went bowling. But Mason Garcia, Alex Flynn have had some moments. Again, talent disadvantages across the board for East Carolina, but they've shown something. As the give is to Bond, he's been quick. And he gets up inside Michigan territory to about the 50, and that'll move the chains.
Yeah, that's a nice play there.
Zeke Berry on the tackle. So the backups are in on the defensive side as well. Zeke Berry in there along with Keon Sabb.
Yeah, there was a good block there to open up the outside. And
So first down and 10 from the 49 of Michigan. Back to throw. Garcia rolls. He's got an open man. It's Bond again. And a nice little play up inside the 45 to about the 42. Tackle made by a bunch of Michigan tacklers led by Micah Parlad.
ACU going with a little bit of tempo, not huddling, just getting things set at the line at this point in the game. Kind of expect that to use the up-tempo offense here.
Second down and 3 from the 42. Give us to Bond and nowhere to go. Good defense right there. Jair Hill, the freshman, on the tackle. Jair Hill was a four-star prospect coming in, another guy that Michigan's high on, trying to compete. Who's going to step up at those corner positions? Josh Wallace did a nice job today, almost had that interception. But Jair Hill's one of those young, developing guys that Jim Harbaugh, Jesse Minder, they want to see him in action in real live game experience. They're getting that right now. Third down and 4 from the 43 of Michigan. Garcia back to throw, looks right, got a man. It is caught, and another first down. It was Jarrett Garner once again right at the marker. Jair Hill in coverage pushed him out of bounds, but not before an East Carolina first down.
Yeah, they're giving the forward progress there. He's pushed back, but caught it beyond the sticks. And ECU, this is their first real, where they've really moved down the field. Real first sustained drive of the afternoon.
First down and 10 from the 38. The motion over Hatfield. Back to throw. Garcia looks. Got a man on the left side. It's Garner. Garner makes a move. He's inside the 35 to about the 31.
For Michigan, you've bent a little bit in this drive. Can they hold them to 3? As they've obviously they're playing a little more. You're not going to be super aggressive defensively with the score that you have. As they get ready here on
so
3.
2 backs in. They motion in a receiver. The give is to Griffin, and Griffin's got some space inside the red zone gun. He actually got to the 19, another first down. Once again for East Carolina. So now they've started to move the ball the first time in the red zone today for the Pirates.
Yeah, first run for ECU where he just right up the middle, no one there.
Yeah. Nice little double team on Mason Graham. Finally a drive into the red zone for the Pirates. In the gun is Garcia. Gunn to his left. They'll give it to Gunn once again up the middle. He got about to the 15, got 3. As the game dwindles down here in the fourth quarter, 8:09 to go. Is there anything on the defensive side that you've noticed from this drive, Peter? As they've started to move the ball a little bit, East Carolina.
Yeah, they have, and both through the air but mainly on the ground. That one gaping hole. I see them. They're just more a little less pressed up. And obviously, you do see that in these types of games. But ECU's doing good as they're moving with some pace here.
Garcia flips it inside. A little bit of a creative play, and flags fly. Good job by Michigan to read it. It was Braden McGregor in on the stop. But let's check the flag.
Yeah, the umpire threw this one, but multiple flags thrown. We'll see what it is as the officials discuss.
And we'll wait for the flag. It'll bring...
Receiver.
Yeah, that happens on those flip plays. Kansas City Chiefs love to do that when they flip it into Travis Kelce.
There's also a hold, which is going to be the accepted penalty on East Carolina.
So it'll be 2nd down and 17. You're right, Peter. So 2nd and 17
Two flags on that
from
one,
the 25. And it's interesting, the starters are still in as Mason Graham was right there. Starters are still in for the Wolverines on defense. Chris Jenkins, Mason Graham, both in on that play. So it's Stewart, Jenkins, Graham, and McGregor lining up from right to left on your defensive line. Looks as if they've rotated the linebacking core a little bit. Ernest Hausman in there as well. Jaden Hood on as your linebacker. They motion a receiver. Back to throw is Garcia. He'll roll out to the right. Garcia looks. He will throw it away. Good coverage by Jaden Hood.
Michigan doing a good job there making Garcia scramble out.
Good pressure from Braden McGregor. Nothing doing. It'll be a 3rd down and 17. 7:09 to go here in this fourth. Time of possession, actually, East Carolina's held up pretty well. 30-22 in favor of the Wolverines. Crowd on its feet. To the left is Gunn. Back to throw is Garcia. Garcia will look to run. He's got space. Makes a move past the 20. Makes a move again inside the 15 to about the 14. Short of the first down. He had to get to the 9-yard line. They pick up that first down, so it'll be about a 4th and 6. And now decision time. I'm assuming they're going to go for it, but we'll see.
Garcia, though, did a good job of getting enough yards to make it.
And even a decision, because you
Yeah.
wouldn't want to go for it on the 4th and 10 or above. Made a nice move on Jaden Hood, then fell forward as the instant replays up on the new revamped scoreboard here in the Big House. Crowd on its feet. 4th down and 6 from the 14. 2 backs in the backfield for Mason Garcia. He'll motion in. Hatfield back to throw. Looks left. He'll run. Garcia trying to get outside. There's a flag on the field as he will be hit, and Ernest Hausman was there. Let's check the flag, but it looks to be a Michigan Wolverine stop.
That's a great job by Hausman pursuing Mason Garcia there. We'll see the flag, though.
Ernest Hausman's got a lot of playing time today. He's that 3rd linebacker for the Wolverines, the transfer from Nebraska. So it'll go against the offense. Penalty will be declined. It's a turnover on downs. So the Wolverine defense keeps the shutout alive. So with 6:16 to go in this game. Again, it's just week 1. We've got plenty of coverage all season long here on WCBN. Week 2. Next week, Michigan will play host to UNLV. Then week 3, it'll be prime time against Bowling Green. Then they got Rutgers, and then eventually they'll go on the road. But these first 3 games, again, no Jim Harbaugh. Once again, no Sharon Moore in this game, the offensive coordinator and the offensive line coach. You do have Jesse Minter as the acting head coach. Jim Harbaugh has decided to switch it up for those first 3 games. And Peter, I'm curious, do you make anything of Jesse Minter doing this game, more in the next? And then you have Mike Harden. Do you like what they're doing, or do you prefer them to stick with one interim coach? What are your thoughts?
Jim Harbaugh, he's the kind of guy that does the unusual sometimes. Like, you're used to obviously having the one interim coach. I think Jim Harbaugh, he trusts his staff, and he wants to let them show what they can do, because he's mentioned multiple times he fully expects them all to be head coaches one day. So he's letting them audition on the big stage here. So from that aspect, I think that's good, giving them the reps. But from the consistency standpoint, we'll see if that affects how Michigan will look once Harbaugh's back. Because obviously you have different coaches each game. You have 2 next week, 2 head coaches next week, and they each have their own style and you can't really get a consistent flow. And then going back to what Jim Harbaugh likes, how he likes to run the offense and the defense. So it's interesting, definitely. But we've seen Jim Harbaugh do the interesting things. Last year, starting Cade and JJ back-to-back weeks in the quarterback competition. This year, giving the coaches a chance to prove themselves and show what they can do as eventually to get potentially jobs as head coaches in the future.
And in this game, again, blowout, talent disadvantages across the board. Has this changed your initial feeling of the Wolverines here in week 1? Has there been an adjustment? Are you happier? Are you more, I don't know? What is your thought? What are your thoughts there?
Yeah, like first game, I try not to take too much, obviously. So, like, they're doing what they're supposed to do. They're up 30. You obviously, last year, Michigan really, they ran up the score against all 3 of their non-conference opponents. And here, just being up 30.
Just 30.
Just 30, but I think they haven't covered for those. I think the line's like 36 or something like that. But special teams, obviously a couple missed kicks. That's a little concerning. The running game, it improved, but there are at some point where the Michigan O-line couldn't really give a lot of holes for Corman Edwards. So that's something that I'll be interested to see as we look at UNLV next week and then Bowling Green as we get set to roll here.
So Davis Warren continues to stay in the game. In the backfield is actually freshman Benjamin Hall. He's impressed in camp. He had a good camp, good fall camp, and he's in there. Ladarius Henderson, the transfer, as I said earlier, is in there as well. Chance for young players to shine. Hall gets it, and Hall will push forward to about the 14, gain of about a yard.
Yeah, well, some of the talk going into the season is who's going to be that third back besides Corman Edwards, because obviously it's nice to have 2 bell cows in Corman Edwards, but who's that third guy? And I expect throughout these first 3 games we'll see the host of running backs that Michigan has in their depth chart.
That is true. So 2nd down and 9. Hall will get it again. He'll bounce it out to the left and fall forward for about 2, maybe a yard. Actually, they brought it back to actually no gain. Deontay Johnson on the stop. So Michigan now in a 3rd and 8 from the 15. We get to see Davis Warren kind of probably throw it here. Interesting that they went with him first, right?
Yeah, I was expecting Tuttle to come in, and we'll see if he does come in. If Michigan, we'll see depending on how this game finishes up. We'll see if Michigan gets the ball back depending on how this drive goes. But
in the gun is Warren. Hall in the backfield to his left. Back to throw. Looks over the middle and dropped. Ooh, a little bit of a late hit, and they're going to call it. It was good coverage, but a late hit right there is going to cost East Carolina another after the play flag. It was on Devin King, so they'll probably get him on that. He tossed, actually, Frederick Moore to the ground.
Yeah, ECU's been a little undisciplined here in the second half. This will be the 3rd. The 3rd late hit penalty. And ECU, you can't do that. You have to be more disciplined. Like, they got the stop on 3rd down.
And I get it. They're amped up. They're amped up. You're in the big house. This is the time where you get to see the program. Not national TV because it's on Peacock, but a nationally seen game. And you want to make an impression, and maybe that's part of it. And hasn't gotten their way, obviously, as they haven't scored a point. The mic was on, actually, for the whistle, and that played with a lot of fans' heads as Warren rolls out, and he'll trip. He tripped over himself.
Yeah, turf toe got him there.
No one actually touched him. He just fell. He was being chased. But that'll be a loss.
Loss of 8 on the play. He was rolling out to his right, and he just tripped under himself. He won't want to see that film tomorrow or Monday, but that stuff happens, you know.
I mean, the one obvious thing we've seen is there's a drop-off right now from QB1 to QB2. 2nd and 18 in the I. Give is to C.J. Stokes And he's up inside the 25 to about the 29. Nice little run right there, trying to get back to that line of scrimmage. It'll bring up a 3rd down of 11, gain of about 6 or 7.
Yeah, we saw CJ Stokes a little bit last season and making his first appearance today. And a nice run there, 7 yards, making it a little more manageable, 3rd and 11 still.
The motion in more. He'll bring him out to the outside. Again, these new receivers trying to step up as the give. Yeah, they ran it right there, telling you what they think of Davis Warren with that play call as C.J. Stokes loses a yard, tackled by a bunch of East Carolina defenders, and Michigan will be forced to punt. With 3:30 to go, Michigan leading 30-zip. Cover it right now, not looking so good. If you bet on Michigan, minus 37. Michigan does have over 400 yards of offense as that punt was good. Nice little kick to about the 28. Fair caught by Hervey, and that'll bring up the offense of the Pirates. Once again, 3:09 to go. Crowd is now about half. A lot of people heading out of the stadium. It's been fun. Michigan, nice, easy, comfortable win. J.J. McCarthy impressing. Some concerns on that offensive line. Run game was not as fortified as you would have liked, but again, it's week 1.
Yeah, not the perfect game, but it's a solid first game, taking care of business. That's the important thing. Obviously, this is not going to be something the committee, down the line, the committee will look at like with a huge eye on this single game, but coming in, home opener, getting a win, and being 309 from getting a win, that's what you asked for coming in, and Michigan's done that. And with all the turmoil, not turmoil, but all this thing is going around the program throughout the summer, it's just good to be able to focus on football again, being able to talk about what's happening on the field and not what's happening outside of the field with the head coach and with all the NCAA suspending Harbaugh, the non-suspending, and then Michigan suspending. And just being able to focus on football, being able to critique football and talk football. That's, the players want to do that. The players, I think, are ready to continue doing that. And
Let's do a little stat update as we end it off for game number 1 here in week number 1. Michigan, led by J.J. McCarthy, was great today. 26 of 30, 283 scores, 198 passer rating. You had Roman Wilson leading the way on the receiving end, 6 for 78. 3, not 1, not 2, but 3 touchdown passes. Cornelius Johnson, another strong showing. 5 for 71. Colston Loveland, 4 for 57. Edwards, 4 for 33. Corum was 3 for 5. Frederick Moore shined a little bit, 2 for 18. Bredesen had a catch for 14 yards, and Darius Clemens with 4. In terms of the running game, they had 122 yards rushing overall. Corum with 73 yards on 10 attempts. His long was 37. He averaged 7.5 per carry, even though a lot of those runs were bottled up. Edwards, 12 for 37. You had Kalel Mullings, 3 for 14, and a bunch of others there as well. As for the defensive side of the football, Michigan's been pretty good. Leading the way in terms of tackles is actually the transfer from Nebraska, Ernest Hausman. Keon Sabb with 5 tackles as well. 2 tackles for loss for Junior Colson. He was flying in that first half as well. In terms of sacks, they had none, but a bunch of pressure created from Derek Moore and company. So let's get this drive started. 1st and 10 from the 28. Garcia back to throw. He had Bond in the backfield. Nice throw. Jalen Johnson is open, and he's up inside the 40 to the 41.
If you're Michigan's defensively, you want to keep this shutout. Like, you have something to play for on this drive.
And even more rotation in that defensive backfield.
That's not a flag. I thought it was a flag. That's just a towel.
So Bond to the right of Garcia from the 41. Garcia back to throw, checks it down to Bond. Bond makes a move. He's inside the 45, up to the 46. Brought down by Quentin Johnston. Gain of about 5.
Yeah, Michigan or easier here. They got time to get one drive. And defensively, you want to see them stay fundamental here. Make your tackles.
So 2:10 to go. Again, live coverage all season long here on WCBN. With one before the 2-minute warning, Garcia will look to run. He'll make a move. Up inside the 50, Mason Garcia falling forward into Michigan territory to about the 49. As papers fly as the gust of wind comes in, as clouds have started to cloud over the stadium.
It's gotten a little breezy here later in the game. And
beautiful day, though, for
yeah,
opening game. As East Carolina puts final drive together. 1:34 to go in this game. To the right of Garcia is Harris. Back to throw. He checks it down. And that's actually another running back, Gerald Green. We thought we'd see more of him. He gets it up to about the 38, 39, or 41, 40, about a 41, pushed out of bounds. So it'll be a 2nd down and 2, gain of about 8. Garcia back in the gun. He's been in the gun for most of this drive. 55 seconds to go. Garcia rolling. He'll look to run. Garcia slides down at about the 37. Tackled by Jaden Hood. And now a timeout from Coach Mike Houston.
And Michigan brought a little pressure there out from the edge. And he did, Garcia did a good job reading the pressure, escaping it, getting the 1st down. And ECU they're moving. They're getting there to close to field range if they want to try and put something on the board here before the end of the game. 46 seconds left, and it's good practice for both sides to a little 2-minute drill late in the game. That's why with Houston calling the timeout here to get his guys ready. 1 timeout left for ECU, 1 as well for the Wolverines if they need it. Yeah, looking over at the TCU-Colorado game, TCU up 4 in that one. That's been looking to be a really fun game with 7 minutes plus to go.
Holy wow.
As Colorado just gets the touchdown.
Shedeur Sanders again. I mean, that game is so impressive what Colorado has done. Travis Hunter, the stats on him, he's played both sides of the ball. I think over 80, something crazy. But Colorado, man, Deion Sanders.
The
fun for college football.
Yeah, it's good when Colorado's good, and Deion Sanders being the brand that he is. He was wide open there in the corner. That was a good route.
And I think people are impressed that this quarterback class that J.J. McCarthy could be a part of in the NFL this upcoming year. I don't want to get ahead of myself, but we've seen some talent. I mean, you're going to see Drake May later tonight. You're going to see Caleb Williams again, who was impressive in week 0. You saw Shedeur Sanders right now, J.J. McCarthy looking strong. You'll see Quinn Ewers later. There is 5 or 6 guys that you could be probably at the level of C.J. Stroud and Bryce Young last year, which is just crazy to think about.
Yeah, plus you have the quarterbacks for Alabama and Ohio State, who they always seem to be really good when they come out. Obviously, both of them being pretty raw, so that'll be interesting to see. But you're right, the quarterback. College football is in a good place. Obviously, it's a changing environment, but it's still, the talent's never been better. The action's been there, but so it's an exciting season ahead. And week 1, if we're back in that groove of talking college football. Obviously, we'll get to the playoff rankings in a few weeks coming up, but.
It's been a little bit more than a few weeks.
It'll come by quick.
But I'm sure we'll discuss again. Weekdays, you can tune in to WCBN FM here in Ann Arbor if you're local to hear the DSRs go at it. I'm sure a lot of us will be on discussing this win or eventual win in about 46 seconds for the Wolverines, albeit not pretty, but they got it done.
A win's a win. But you're right. There are obviously things that the Wolverines will want to clean up.
And we'll get into that, of course, this week before and leading up to UNLV coming into town next week at 3:30. We'll have coverage then, as that throw is caught on the left side as Garner tackled there by the freshman Hill. Gain of about 3 or 4. He got to about the 33. 32, they'll actually give him forward progress, so it'll be a third down and about, or a second down and about 5. Scoreboard bugged out a little bit there as that throw on the right side is caught once again. That was Hatfield for Garcia. So Garcia today, he went out for a portion. Flynn came in. But East Carolina has been led by a couple of receivers, including Jarrett Gardner. He's 4 for 22. Jalen Johnson, 3 for 30. And Hatfield, 2 for 12.
You know, with 18 seconds to go here, ECU's got time to throw something in the end zone, or we'll see how they play this. They just want to get points, or if they're going to go for take shots.
18 seconds to go. First down and 10 from the 25. Back to throw is Garcia. Looks. He's trying to go deep. He looks on the right side, and that pass is broken up.
And Jones with some good coverage there.
Yep. Another younger player, Cody Jones. The nickelback listed as the second nickelback on the team, but you saw Jaden McBurrows in there for some points. Michigan likes to move around their defensive backs, and today was a good test because Will Johnson did not play, Rod Moore did not play, so you got to see a lot of those younger players. I think one of them that we thought impressed was Keon Sabb with that nice breakup on that play in the first half. So second down and 10, 12 seconds to go. Garcia in the gun. To the right is Green. Garcia looks short, got a man, it's Jalen Johnson. Tackled by Barry, and with 16 at the 16-yard line, now the fans are kind of fed up because Mike Houston, in a game where their team is down 30-0, is now just delaying the end here as he calls another timeout.
And I expect him to go for the field goal here and get points on the board to end the shutout. We'll see if they do that. It looks like they are setting up for a field goal.
I'm sure some fans are itching to get home or wanting to wait till the end here. Big House is now about a third full. Student section is mostly cleared, but it was a packed day, 109,000 people, just shy of 110.
And you can feel the energy, especially early in the game. Like the crowd was into it. They were loud. You obviously expect that. With the score being bigger, will it hold in more sound? We'll see as the season goes when you get some bigger games, but we'll see.
So they're going to bring on the kicker. This is hilarious. So the crowd doesn't like it, but East Carolina is going to bring on Andrew Conrad to break up the shutout. It's about a 33-yard attempt from the middle of the field. Conrad steps up. Kick is good, and the shutout is done. How about that for a live line? As Michigan closes it out, as East Carolina wanted to get some points, they do, and the score is 30-3, and that'll end it from the Big House. Michigan in week 1, and before we leave, Peter, is there something, as Michigan fans, you knew you were probably going to win this game, but they didn't cover the spread. That's beside the point. Is there something that you're going to take away into later games that you're like, hey, Michigan's really good at this, or hey, Michigan needs to work on that? What is that thing?
I think Michigan fans will be really happy with how J.J. McCarthy played. We've been harping on that throughout the broadcast. J.J. looked really good. He looked sharp. I'm excited to see how that progresses as the season goes on. Obviously, we've touched on all these things throughout the broadcast. Special teams want to clean that up a little bit. Blake Coleman, Donovan Edwards, they were stopped pretty well today, but they also saw the signs of what we expect. Those big gains from both of them, as Michigan with not franchise collegiate win number 990, itching towards 1,000. That's an exciting little storyline on the side, but I think overall this was a successful game. Obviously, there are things to clean up, things to improve on, and we could harp on those throughout the week. Tune in to WCBN on the radio for that. But yeah, a win's a win at the end of the day. The way that this game played out is not going to affect Michigan down the line. It's just improving each week, and I think Michigan will do that as we move forward.
So that's it for Michigan, winning 30-3 in their first game. Week 2, we'll be back next week. WCBN again, of course. They'll have live coverage of every single football game. So whenever you want it, tune into that YouTube page. You don't want to pay for Peacock this week. You tuned in next week. Tune in once again if you loved it. For Matthew Levy and Peter Nasr, we had Kelin, Flynn, and Neal Sinha for the first half. So long and go blue. What a fun one. Week 1 is done. We'll see you for week 2.